Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Richard,
I'm Caroline.
and we go to a frankly baffling number of cons every year.
I said my name this time.
Yeah, you did. Well, you have to be on your best behavior because we have a guest this week.
We do. We kidnapped somebody.
Yep, just a spot of light kidnapping, it's fine.
Hey,
So
everybody.
we've been threatening to do this for a while, but you're actually in the back of the car for once.
Yes, I am. I'm
Totally from your own will, too.
Yes, we want to clarify for legal purposes, the kidnapping thing is a joke. Yes, would you care to introduce yourself for any new listeners?
Sure thing. My name's Bridget. I was also on the Anime Columbus 2025 podcast, if you listen to that one. I was sort of kidnapped, sort of not, strongly encouraged to join them in the back of their car for this trip.
Nice.
Yeah, and where have we been this week, dear?
We were at Anime Zap, which is part of a series of anime conventions that includes Con Alt Delete. That is by, I think, it's either animecons.org or animecons.com, but I always get the two mixed up. They run a series of conventions that includes Con Alt Delete, Anime Zap, and a few others that you can find on their websites. As I mentioned in the Con Alt Delete episode, there's some controversy with them as a company. We already kind of addressed that episode. Our philosophy on con controversy is basically just, if you're going to boycott cons, you're going to have to boycott every con because of controversy. Or controversy.
Controversy.
So yeah, you can look that stuff up if you're interested, but that's its origins and basis. I don't really know the connection between the two other than they're hosted by the same website.
So this one's a wee bit of a drive for us.
Yes.
Specifically speaking, it's about a 7-hour jaunt because this one's in Peoria.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I did check because remember we have the spreadsheet now of cons we're gonna go to, and I put the likelihood and possibility of stuff on how likely it is that we're going to go to them. I think I put this one at 50%, which honestly seemed optimistic.
Yeah, we weren't planning on going to this one because again, it's a very long drive. And it's the first week of term, or it's about to be the first week of term. So you were kind of expecting to be too busy, but then again, the ongoing medical stuff's been kind of ongoing.
Yeah, I was expecting this honestly to be a bonus episode week because there was not anything closer to us realistically this weekend. It's the first weekend of January. People don't like to have cons now because it's after Christmas, and apparently you're not allowed to have fun after Christmas.
Everybody's broke.
You're still allowed to have fun.
Yeah, but so we weren't planning on it, and then Bridget, this one's slightly your fault.
I apologize in advance.
Because you messaged us, and I can't remember, had you already applied to be in the Masquerade when you messaged us, or were you just contemplating it?
To be honest, I don't remember. The reason I found the con was because of your spreadsheet, so I could also reflect this back at you and say it's your fault.
Yeah, that's true.
So I didn't plan on going to this con either, but I did see that this was around after Christmas, like December 27th, 28th, something like that. And I saw the spreadsheet, and I went to their website and saw that their Masquerade was still open. And, and for some of the listeners who may know who I am, I like to do Masquerades and perform. So I look for any chance I can to perform and cosplay Masquerades. And since it was still open and I was able to confirm that I was going to be in it, I think at that point I might have messaged you guys about it. I can't remember the exact order of everything.
Yeah, I think you messaged us saying you applied to be in the Masquerade and we're going to likely go if you were going as well.
Yep.
Also, for those of you who remember Bridget from the podcast before, her partner JP does normally attend, but he had a ninja competition this weekend, so we didn't kidnap him out of respect for ninjas.
Yes, I do not want to try and kidnap a ninja. That sounds like a terrible idea.
So, we just took Bridget.
Yeah. So, so there was kind of a bit of a back and forth of, well, we'll go if you go. Oh yeah, you should go. Yeah, if you go, I'll go. And then so you got into the competition. And at that point, we were just like, yeah, why not? 7-hour road trip. This sounds like fun.
Yeah, so we coordinated to drive down together, and we got an Airbnb.
Yep.
Which we'll talk a little bit about. We also looked at the hotel. We might do that next time if we decide to go back.
Yeah. So the actual logistics of this kind of, again, because of the ongoing medical stuff, when you didn't plan this one, that far in advance, I don't think we definitively knew whose car we were taking until the day of.
I
Um,
think so, yeah.
so yeah, in this context, you basically drove down to our place, and then we loaded everything into our car and got on the
By the way,
road.
thank you for being patient with our lack of communication the last couple days.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've got it to work out.
Yes.
Yeah, this was definitely very fun. This is, I think, the first con we've done with like a friend road trip, which is very cool.
Yeah, it depends if you count going to Origins with Calzone and Betty, but like she was staying with us at our place, and we were just doing the back and forth. So I don't know if that counts as a road trip in that regard.
Yes.
You could theoretically count it.
Maybe this can be like if we ever open a Patreon, like a tier for which you can go on a road trip with us for a con if you're like, hey, it's fun.
And then you get to be a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we keep joking about opening a Patreon, but let's be honest, we would need a lot more actual subscribers. Incidentally, if you like this podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, share it with your
Yes.
friends, do all of the YouTube pleasantries.
And I will say, if you do like the podcast, we have every intention of keeping it free and available to the public. We want this to really be a podcast about the positivity of cons, and I would say the Ohio area, but we're kind of skirting that one this time.
Yeah, again, we've gone all the way to Illinois at this point. We were in Delaware last week. So yeah, we are prepared to travel for a con. It's not that much of a problem for us. It's mostly just figuring out logistics and a bunch of other stuff. And
It's also just you have to take more time off work and stuff like that the longer away a con is, and it's more time and more energy. So I would say this has helped a lot by the fact that Bridget is here to make the drive significantly more fun. This is a lot for us just kind of on our own.
yeah, 7-hour drive with just the two of us is a lot.
Yeah.
We can do it. We have done it. It's just it's more fun with friends.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't think any of us really knew what to expect with this one, because it was just one I happened to see on the anime. I'm sorry that I'm mixing up anime cons and anime.org, but it's hard to actually access the website, okay? I'm aware they're different things. Do not email me.
If you want to email her, the email is it's concouplepodcast@gmail.com. YouTube comments also work.
But I know that most of their cons outside of Anime Midwest tend to be smaller conventions.
Yes.
So I didn't really know what to expect with this one in terms of size or what was going on. I saw that they didn't have a lot of stuff on their programming, so I expected it to be smaller.
Yeah.
Also, this was in Peoria. Am I saying that right?
I'm not sure if it's Peoria or.
Do you know?
If there's any Illinois locals, you can feel free to send them an email to correct them.
Yeah.
I believe it's Peoria.
Yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
took it, but I could also be wrong. I'm not from here, so.
So yeah, for reference, this is about 2 hours kind of southwest of Chicago.
Yep.
So it's more kind of central Illinois based, and it's not a place I think any of us have ever been before. It's apparently a town of around, I looked up the population, around 100,000 people. So yeah, we had no idea what to expect.
Yep, didn't have a clue. So got on the road midday-ish on Friday, I think, between when Bridget got to us. And again, this is another one where, because it's in Illinois, we are changing time zones on this one. So a 7-hour drive leaving at midday meant we got to the convention space at about 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm. We might change time zones back on this podcast, but I didn't want to.
We will do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a longer drive, and we knew this was going to be a con that we didn't really. It was more kind of a vibes check out con, I think, for us. We didn't do as much programming here. So
yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
And that's at least in part because there was a lot less on the schedule. I freely admit, we looked at the schedule for this one and weren't that enthused by it, just based on the amount of stuff that was on, which was not a lot.
So, spoiler alert, we also decided to kind of just head back on Sunday as opposed to go back to the con space.
Yeah.
We did go Friday night and Saturday. So.
We did. Yeah, it was actually great because badge pickup deadline on Friday night was 8 o'clock, and I was looking at the estimated time of arrival, going, it thinks we'll arrive at 8:02. We actually made it there at 7:59. Just because again, if you make it with decent traffic, you will usually shave a few minutes off of Google's estimate, especially on a drive that long. But you're never quite sure.
Yeah. So what do you want to shift into now? Do you want to do chronological order? Do you want to do drive? Do you want to talk about the space?
Should we talk about the con space?
Okay.
So this was held at the Embassy Suites in Peoria. And this is kind of your classic convention center connected to a hotel.
Yes.
And calling it a convention center, I think they do call it a conference center, which I think is probably a more fair and accurate description.
Yeah, Bridget, you were commenting this looked like a space where they held a lot of office or corporate conventions.
Yeah, I felt that this was very much a venue that is used for business conferences and stuff like that. Like I feel like I could have my like work conference there. Like, but it was nice though. I thought it was actually really pretty and looked good.
Yeah, I think it was a lot nicer than we expected it to be.
The hotel side, certainly.
A lot of smaller convention centers, particularly in small towns, are things that have not been updated since the 70s. This was not that.
No, very much not. So yeah, in terms of its basic design, you basically had what amounted to an L-shaped corridor. Down the long arm was the vendors hall, main events, and a couple of other slightly smaller things. And then down the short arm was the two panel rooms, and then on the other side was the games room. And they had video gaming and tabletop gaming. And based on the look of it, I suspect those spaces could have been one big room, but they deliberately sectioned them into two rooms. And like a lot of convention centers, it's very clear that they have like a lot of sliding panels, so they can like change the room layouts depending on whether you want like big rooms, small rooms.
And yeah, there were panel rooms on the opposite side for the two smaller panel rooms, which were also decently sized.
Mm-hmm.
And then down the other corridor was main events, the manga library area.
Yes. Yeah, they had that down kind of at the far end.
And the vendors hall.
Yeah. And this was the one thing I found moderately amusing is they had a sign saying vendors hall on one door and a sign saying artist alley on another door, and they both led into the same room. Like, I have no idea if there was a nominal separation between the two. I don't think there was. They seem pretty interspersed on this one, which kind of, as we mentioned before on this podcast, at a smaller con generally, there's not much point in trying to separate out those two things just because they are basically the same thing at that point. You know, the difference. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Generally speaking, there's not enough of either to justify separating them from one another. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep.
And both the corridors, I think, had bathrooms, and then the hotel. It was interesting because the map seemed to indicate that the hotel would have like space for meetups and photo shoots, but
Yeah.
it didn't seem to actually have that.
Yes. So basically, at the corner of the L, there was a staircase up to up one floor, and then a sky bridge over to the hotel, which was actually quite nice. Meant you didn't have to go outside to get back and forth between the two, which, given the weather this weekend, I very much appreciate. Like it's been it's mostly been fine, but pretty cold.
Well, it was 60 degrees on Friday, and then it's been freezing the rest of the weekend because this is January in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So
It did snow a bit on Saturday night, but like not too bad. And then once you go over the hotel, to all intents and purposes, is a series of concentric rings. So it was 8 floors, I believe.
yeah, this is really what I was wishing that the New Year's Free Ball we attended last weekend was, because it was a main central lobby at the bottom, and then the inverse of one of those hotels that are outdoor only, like where there's rings around it where you can see up to all the hotel rooms, which were all in fur costumes and all like cheering down the New Year would be an amazing image.
Yeah.
Here it was just kind of a bunch of doors. I will say I was really hoping for more door decoration. Again, this isn't on anyone. It's just we've been to a lot of cons where people decorate their doors at hotels, and I want that to be more of a thing.
Yeah, this would have been a really good con for it, just because you would have seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because again, it was basically oval shape, going up 8 floors, and if you're all the way on the top floor, you just look straight down and you can see all the way down to the lobby right at the bottom, which is cool. 3 lifts, all of which were like glass fronted, so you could see the lobby and you could see the lifts.
All of
going
the
up and down.
cosplays looked amazing in that elevator. I loved it because it was
They
like
really
the gold
did.
framing around it.
Yeah, like it was really fun watching people just going up and down those lifts and cosplays. So the what was normally the second floor, which is where you went in, did have 3 rooms over there that, according to the map, were in use by the convention, but they were not, as far as I'm aware, doing anything at any point over the weekend. So I'm wondering if this convention just has had fewer numbers this year and just didn't get anywhere near as much panel programming as previous years.
Well, I know that Grego normally does their conventions, but I think he couldn't do this weekend because I think he was budgeting his time a little bit. There also might have been some other conflicts. Again, he's not obligated to do any cons.
Yeah.
But for us, he's a big draw. I don't think he's a lot of big draw for a lot of other people. But there are a few game show enthusiasts I know who adore him like we do. So they'll attend cons that he's at.
and just generally speaking, it did. When you went over to the hotel, it did feel quiet because again, like they had that lobby space down the bottom, which had a bunch of tables, some like fountains. Like it was a very very nice, pretty space. There was almost never anybody over there.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was that there was no like central restaurant. There was clearly like a buffet style setup for breakfast that I think the hotel guests probably got. But other than that, there wasn't like there was a kind of sort of bar over there that looked hard to enter and use, so there just wasn't a lot of space. And as we'll probably talk about, I think part of the issue was this con also skewed very, very young.
Yes,
like, probably
did.
the youngest I've seen.
Yeah, like there were a lot of people who were around the 18 to 22 mark.
And a lot that were younger who were there with their parents, which is fine. It's just, I didn't really expect it.
No, I didn't either. And based on some comments, it sounds like they made a little bit of a push this year to make it slightly more of an older con. And I think that was to their detriment.
Yeah, when we were playing board games, I heard some people talking about how they were trying to do more 18 plus 18 events at night just to do more of the party atmosphere, which I do think the hotel would be great for if they could get it set up. But because the majority of people there were like teenagers and people attending with their parents, I don't think it was as much of a push for the late night stuff at this particular con.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot less just random adults in their 20s and 30s running around.
Yeah. Like I felt old at this con, just relative to a lot of the other people who were attending.
How did you feel, Bridget? You're turning 30 in 2 weeks.
Woo, hitting the 30 mark. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I felt that we were probably the oldest people at the con, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it does impact how we experience the events.
Yeah,
and it just affects the vibe.
Yeah, and it made it hard to just kind of make friends. I think a little bit.
Yeah,
so
I would
mostly
agree.
I think made friends with kids' parents. So
yeah,
and one kid's grandparents.
Apparently.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah. But no, generally speaking, I actually really quite like the space, or at the very least, like the hotel itself. I think is a really good space for a con. Because I do know they also had like some additional rooms down on the ground floor of the hotel that, again, were nominally marked on the map as though the convention was using them, but there was not actually anything in them. Plus I know they have a fitness center and a pool of some description, and a lot of signage saying you need to wear shoes at all times.
There were a lot of you need to wear shoe signs.
I think there were like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Which, what's the old thing? Every sign has a story.
That's mostly. I think that carpet looks. They had really nice carpet, and I think they don't want to ruin it quite yet.
Yeah, it's probably relatively new.
I will say we didn't stay in the hotel rooms, but I did look them up, and you could kind of see inside them based on the setup of the hotel, and they were really nice. Like these were full suite rooms, so you would have a separate living room and a separate bedroom for it. Bridget, you said they were how much?
I believe they were $125 a night for up to 2 people, and then it was like I think an extra $20 per additional person.
Yeah.
At least that's what the con website says.
Yeah, which for hotel block pricing, that's actually not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Generally, suite rooms cost a lot more than that, so that's a pretty good deal. Like I would consider staying in those rooms. If there was a con there, we normally don't stay on site due to my disability. So
Because we did what we always do on Airbnb.
I tried to pick one with actual good reviews this time since we had a guest, as opposed to just the cheapest one.
Oh, is that the reason why we ended up with a pretty good Airbnb?
Yes,
this time?
I like tried to actually accommodate people instead of just doing our normal thing of being like, well, it doesn't need a ceiling if it's $50.
You say that like it's not a thing we've actually done.
It's because I came along.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's pretty.
Like a massive flock of geese.
That is a lot of geese. That's probably a couple of hundred geese. Cool.
It's not a geese review podcast.
No, it's not. But the geese are fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. So generally speaking, I like the space. It's just I don't know the vibes of this con. It just felt very very quiet.
Yeah. Quiet, I think, is the word to describe it. I want to emphasize quiet doesn't necessarily mean bad. We didn't know what to expect, and there were definitely a lot of worse things we could have encountered than quiet and young.
Yes.
I think those would be the 2 words I would use to describe this con.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
What about you, Bridget? What word did you use to describe it?
Oh. Quiet probably. I don't want to say low energy because that's negative, but I think when there's just less people, there's just less energy in the space.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess that would be another word to describe it, but that doesn't necessarily mean bad.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And, I'll briefly talk about food. So yeah, the hotel I believe was serving breakfast because the room block price included breakfast. I have no idea if it was any good or not. I didn't. You know, we didn't have a room in the room block, so I did not get breakfast there. And they, as far as I can tell, didn't have any available food throughout the rest of the weekend. But that hotel and conference center is right next to a whole bunch of places where you can get food.
Yeah, it is interesting because I know that they're run by the same company that does Con Delete. And because of that, I also should emphasize that based on my limited understanding, this is a for-profit convention, although I don't actually think they're making money, so I don't really know how to balance that. But I do think that their website is for-profit, so it's run by a for-profit organization, which does make it technically different. But Con Delete has a con suite where they give away free food, basically. It's like basically ramen and stuff like that, but anyone can get it. This con doesn't, which is interesting, and that might just be hotel policy or something like that. Although, a slightly weird hotel policy because they have one bar that I don't even think really sells food, so...
Again, they nominally had a cafe, but I never saw that open at any point.
What were we going to say, Bridget?
I was going to say, you just said it. Was the cafe even open the entire time we were there?
I did not see anybody eating there at all.
Because I didn't see anybody.
You know, and that might just be they only bother opening it if, like, the convention tells them that people are going to use it, and they didn't, you know, because you're never quite sure. Because I really meant I didn't see a lot of people at the hotel who didn't look like they were con attendees. So I genuinely am unsure whether the room block was the entire hotel or not. I mean, if it was, it does not feel like they were using the entire hotel.
Yeah, it was a bit unclear to me. It seemed like it was largely local also, then didn't ask a lot of people. Like I said when we got there, I wonder if we drove the furthest for this con out of anyone who went there. I mean, I suspect we probably did.
I'm willing to
think you're right.
good odds. Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't interview everyone who was there and ask.
Yeah, the only person who might have come as far as us is Samurai Dan, who was one of the guests, and I have no idea where he's based.
He just is at every con. Like, he's at a different con next weekend that's in North Carolina. Like, this is just what the dude does.
Yeah, which is fair.
Like, I know that because I stalk cons.
Yeah,
so.
again, if you can make a living going to conventions, great.
That's the dream, really.
That'd be fun. I'd love to do that.
Honestly, you know sword fighting. You should challenge him for his spot. Challenge him to a sword fighting duel, and if you win, you get all his cons.
No. That's just awkward.
He'd be into it.
Yeah, he probably would, actually.
Except you wouldn't get all his cons. You just, join him on stage for all of them. But even so.
Yeah.
He's got to pass the torch eventually. He's getting up there.
Yeah, and I would probably lose. Because he's been doing it a lot longer than I have, and I'm very out of practice.
So yeah, he was here. We didn't attend any of his stuff. We don't normally. Not because he's, bad or anything. He's just, you already know sword fighting, and I don't really care to learn it, so I've never really gone to any of his panels.
Yeah, he does a lot of introductory stuff, which, fine. I do not have a problem with, intro stuff at anime cons.
Yeah, and he seems like nice enough.
Yeah.
And he's definitely somebody who's very good at crowd work also, which is something that I think you definitely need in class.
You do, especially if you're going to be teaching a basic martial arts class to a large room full of people.
And some of whom are children.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things they were doing this weekend was a lightsaber training class. Which again, we will talk about the actual paneling. But yeah, but I will say this about the convention center and the hotel: they did not care if you were bringing outside food in.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
It wasn't even a sign, so I assume it's perfectly allowed.
Yeah.
I will also comment, and we might talk about this a little bit more. It does seem like this con in particular did not have a lot of staff members.
Yes. I feel like we saw maybe 5 people who worked for the con across the entire weekend.
And we heard them radioing to each other, asking for them to cover various spaces at the con because they didn't have enough people, so they would have to get somebody to leave the front desk area and then go back to do other stuff.
Yeah.
They were also doing badge checks for basically entering. More geese.
Yep, more geese. But I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like they set it up in the most logical of ways. Specifically, I mentioned the L shape. The way it was set up was that at the entry to each of the prongs of the L, they had a table where they were doing a badge check. Which again, perfectly fine, perfectly functional. It's just, I feel like they could have cut that down to just one table by moving the badge, because the entrance door that you had to go in through was at that corner. So if they just moved the table further forward, had one table, they could have had one person doing all the badge check. Now, granted, the registration where you actually picked up your badge was, next to that. So the simple solution would be you come in, they look, you go, okay, do you have a badge? Great, you can go on my right-hand side, around the table. Or do you not have a badge? Okay, you're going left to pick up your badge at registration, which is right there. That's how I would have set that up. But, just to reduce the number of people, because they clearly did not seem to have like a lot of staff or volunteers.
Yeah, I'm also going to be honest. At the con, this you really don't need badge checks.
No, you don't.
No.
You really don't. Like, again, we did actually have a brief conversation with one of the people doing the badge check while we were waiting on something else, which we'll talk about when we get there. His comment was, we're making an effort to keep like the bad actors out, so we do badge checks. And I'm like, I understand, but at the same time, like, really?
Well, some people do really view this, and we've talked about this before, as like keeping like the people who don't buy badges out as like a very important thing for them. Whereas I think for us, it's more important for like, I would rather have everyone who buys a badge feel like safe and accessible at the con, and if that lets a few people in who don't happen to buy badges, I'm fine with that. Like, I would rather have if I'm spending money on a badge, I would rather have them err in that direction than them err in the direction of making it inaccessible for people who happen to have badges, which badge checks do tend to do for the disabled community for a wide variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Also, just so straight up somebody forgets their badge at home.
Yep.
Which happens occasionally.
Which happens.
Yep.
And interestingly, by the time we got to the late night stuff, neither of those badge check desks were manned.
So I think that's because most of the rooms were closed by that point, minus the main events.
I believe the vendors hall and I don't know what the gaming area, but I'm pretty sure the vendors hall closed at 8.
Yeah.
So like most kind of big things, I think were closed at that point.
Yeah. So, is there much else we want to say about the space? Oh, free parking.
Woo!
Love free parking.
Free parking, bro. That also means, particularly at a con like this where it's smaller and there's not always stuff on you want to do, you can just leave and come back.
Yep.
That's great.
That
We
was
did that.
great.
Yeah, like at one point I was hungry, so I ordered some food at a place that was like a 3-minute drive away. And basically said, have it ready for me in like this particular time, because I knew we were going to have a free spot at that point. They got the food ready at that particular time. I just drove around, picked it up, came back, and didn't have to worry because again the parking was free, so I could leave and do that without any problems.
Yeah, and it's also because it's a smaller con, it's not like Colossal, which also does offer free parking, which appreciated. But if you leave that parking spot during like midday Saturday, you're gonna have to walk 2 miles, and it's gonna take you like an hour to get into the parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah, you ain't getting your parking spot back. Whereas this time I got the exact same parking spot back.
Yeah, this time at Colossal Con, people got aggressive and just started like leaving chairs and random cones they had stolen in parking spots. It was
It was
nuts.
kind of funny. You didn't need to do that at this
Or I
point.
guess last year, I guess.
Yeah.
By the way, this is our first full con in 2026.
Yes, it is.
Woo-hoo.
And those of you paying attention to the episode titles will know I'm going to start adding the year of the convention to the title, just for the sake of making the archiving easier.
And as you can tell by this episode, we will be doing obviously some repeat cons this year because there are some cons that we love and want to continue going to, but they do change yearly, and we think they're still worth reporting on. And we're probably going to try some new cons this year too.
Yep.
I'm going to another new con next week.
Yep.
That I signed up for randomly.
This weekend.
In the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually did buy tickets for it while we were driving. Yeah.
The tickets were free.
The tickets were free. But again, we'll talk about that con.
That con gets its
Next
own
week.
episode. Bridget will unfortunately not be at that one.
No, I will not.
That's fair.
But yeah, so where is my brain?
Do you want to shift to chronological order at this point?
Yes, I'm assuming so.
So we drove up midday because I don't think any of us really wanted to bother getting up like at the crack of dawn for the early stuff. So we drove up midday on Friday.
Yep.
It was bizarrely warm.
Yeah, like you turned up to our house wearing shorts.
Because it was 65 degrees outside.
Mhm.
Like, 'tis the season, I guess.
Yeah. Again, January in the Midwest, it gets unpredictable. But yeah, so loaded up the car, got on the road, and again, 7-hour drive. Hint for a 7-hour drive, plan a couple of stops along the way. Like, today's drive, the sat nav is currently claiming we'll be at our destination in 2 hours, or 2 hours, 3 minutes specifically. That's not our final destination. That is the place we've decided we're going to stop off along the way to like stretch our legs, engage our brains for a little bit. Because like 7 straight hours of highway driving will mess with you in a bunch of ways.
Also, don't be the type of people where if you kidnap your friends in cars that you don't let them take bathroom breaks. I have been in cars with those types of people. They suck.
Yeah.
People are allowed bathroom breaks.
Yep.
Yes.
It's probably a violation of the Geneva Convention. I think,
It actually is.
Yeah. In fairness, I'm not an international organization, but
So yeah. Um, yeah. So again, we stopped off at a couple of places along the way. We stopped off at Eagle Creek Park again. If you've heard the Connaught Delete episode, you know we stopped there on the way.
now what did you think of Eagle Creek Park, Bridget?
What's that?
What did you think of Eagle Creek Park?
I thought it was sweet. I wish it was nicer outside and we had more time because I would have. I feel like I could spend more time there.
Yeah.
But we did get to see the bald eagle, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, they definitely have some trails, and I think if we ever do or if we get the timing right, and it's also not winter, I think I would like to do one of their trails because there's a lot of really cool trails where you can look at the lake.
Yep.
And in theory, they have pelicans during the summer, so.
Yep. Which again, we'll have to see when we get to spring and summertime.
And also, each pelican can only ever have one child because they lay eggs in two, and the one that hatches first kills the other one, and that's a good bird fact that everyone should know.
Way to bring the tone down, honey. So yeah. Thanks, that depressed me. So
Survival of the fittest.
Yep. So we contemplated exactly how we were going to do things. Whether we were going to just go straight to the Airbnb and then not go to the con at all on Friday, or if we wanted to try and at the very least pick up our badges, scope out the space, all of that kind of stuff. We opted for option B.
And then we realized the badge pickup registration desk supposedly closed at 8, and we were slated to get there at 8:02. So we realized this would be kind of like a 50-50 situation, but also realistically, in most cons, particularly during the late night hour, you can kind of walk around without a badge. So we figured it would be fine either way.
Yeah. So yeah, we got there again, just before the reg desk closed. Technically, I think it was after their official closing time, but they hadn't actually closed the shutter yet. And they were using the same badge pickup method as Connaught Delete, which is basically they had this automated machine thing that would scan your QR code and then dispense you a badge, which for the most part I think is a pretty good system, though you did have some fun with it, Bridget.
Yes, I did. So I think Richard took the last badge that was in the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So when I scanned my QR code, there was no badge that came out. So we had to ask one of the staff to take care of that.
Yeah, which to be fair was a pretty straightforward process for them.
Yeah, I will say it was pretty efficient. So other cons that need ways to have efficient badge pickup, something to consider.
Yep. And because you can see the back of the machine too, if you look from the other side, it's actually really relatively low tech, very basic stuff, but it's fun. It's cute.
And it seems to work.
Yeah.
Again, I suspect they're not expensive, and I suspect they probably were built by somebody who volunteers for this organization.
Yeah, it looks like they just made it themselves, which is kind of awesome, really.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was pretty quick. It was pretty efficient. So and basically while we were in the process of putting the because again it's the classic case of it gives you your badge and then you just grab a lanyard to attach it to. While I was in the process of putting the lanyards on, they started closing up the booth. So we did get there just in the nick of time.
I was gonna say, you were probably gonna talk about this, but the fact that we walked around a little bit after we got our badges, and it seemed busier than we expected for a Friday night.
Yeah, it was weird that Friday night I think turned out being the busiest times of the times we went, which is Friday night is normally at least a little busy at a con, but it's nothing compared to Saturday most days.
Yeah, most conventions follow a what I would call a slightly aggressive bell curve, insofar as Friday is usually moderately busy, Saturday's the busiest, and then Sunday's usually the quietest day.
Yeah.
If you call Saturday the the 100% mark, Friday's usually 50 to 70%. Sunday's usually about 40% in terms of numbers of people relative to the peak on Saturday. This one, it really felt like the Friday night when we were there was the busiest time, which is unusual.
Very weird.
That's
We were
very
trying to figure it
strange.
out. Because I don't know if they had that much on. They had the pajama party on, but I don't know about much else. So which we did walk past.
Yep.
But other than that, it was odd. And I think we thought it was going to be that level of busy for the entire weekend, or because generally we would think oh, it's pretty busy now. It'll probably pick up more for tomorrow. And it just never really did.
Yeah. Because we kind of got there again. We'll talk more in detail about Saturday when we get to Saturday, but when we were going around Saturday morning, it's pretty quiet now. But again, that's probably just people who are tired. bunch of teenagers, so they'll probably like get up, like midday, and it'll get busier at that point. And it kind of didn't.
Yeah.
It was weird. But yeah. So at that point, basically what we just did was look around the space, get a sense of where things were, and then we did a whole bunch of loops of the hotel. Because you two are both nuts.
Well, I think, Bridget, you tried to find because you had to check in for your cosplay contest. So you were trying to look for where that booth was, and you couldn't find it at that point?
Yes, I didn't find it until Saturday. We'll talk about this probably when we get to Saturday, but for the masquerade contestants, the rule was you had to check in on Friday unless you communicated with the staff ahead of time that you would need to check in on Saturday. And I told them that it was going to be unlikely that I'd be able to make it on Friday to check in because I think the booth closed at 8, so the same time as registration.
Yeah.
So I ended up just checking in on Saturday. But it's funny though, I couldn't find the cosplay table. But then when I asked the registration booth on Saturday, the table was like right across the hall. It was like right in front of me. So
it wasn't
worked
labeled though.
No, I think the sign was flipped the other direction.
Okay.
So I think that's why we didn't see it because we couldn't read the sign because it was facing the other way.
Yeah, I did notice they were doing that at a couple of points. Like, if a sign wasn't relevant at that time, they would actually like physically turn it around.
Which I guess is useful if like a place is closed.
Yeah, but it did mean that you weren't entirely sure where it was.
Yeah. Because we came down on Friday just because we haven't talked costumes, I think we're all like, I was just dressed in kind of an Alice-inspired themed dress because I didn't want to wear anything ridiculous in the car for a 7-hour drive. We were stopping.
Yep.
Was anyone else dressed up?
I did not costume.
I was not in costume either.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine. We were only there for like a few hours.
Yeah, like not even that.
Yeah. So we did that. We walked around the space a little just to get the sense of it. We walked past the cosplay pajama party thing, which people were playing Jackbox in, which is cool.
Yep.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
But mostly this was just a chance to scope the area out and kind of figure out what was going on. Which it's kind of nice to do that when the con's a bit quieter, which is why sometimes it's good to do your badge pickup on a Friday night when it's normally kind of not the busiest that the con gets. And again, I get if it's a con like say Colossal Con, where it starts on Thursday, the whole thing is like a massive party that takes place over the course of the entire time. I get why that is, going to be a very why Friday night's such a busy time there. But this one, no, I don't get it. I just don't. But yeah, and at that point, as I say, we walked around every floor of the hotel just because.
Well, because it had that loop you could do, we just did that for like a couple, I think 30 minutes or so.
About 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, I think that was at least in part. We'd been on the road for 7 hours and needed to stretch our legs a bit.
But it was also fun to kind of see, and it let us look into different hotel rooms because they didn't close the curtains right. You could spy on them, which was fun.
Yeah, for the record, this hotel had the classic thing that a lot of them do, which is 2 layers of curtains, where the first layer is a little bit transparent, and then the second layer is the hard you are not seeing through this. So some of the rooms you could kind of peer into a little bit, just because they hadn't closed the extra layer of curtains.
Well, this is also one of those things. Is I will say all of the rooms at this hotel do look good and basically the same, but some of them, and I did check, you can't really even they don't charge by different views, but because the hotel is on, so Peoria has a river that separates the east and west sides of it that the town effectively runs through, and the hotel is right on the river.
Yeah.
So half the hotel rooms face the river, half the hotel rooms kind of face part of Peoria, and half of them face nothing, and some of them are higher up than others. So there are better and worse rooms that you could potentially get if you were to book this hotel. There's not really a way. I checked on their website just because I was idly curious to verify that you get a river view room and they don't charge more for it. So I think it's just kind of random draw, which is interesting.
And again, certainly I know if you're doing room block rooms, you can make specific requests. If, for example, we'd opted to go for the hotel block, Caroline and I might have wanted to get a room next to a room that Bridget, if he was here, JP would get. And usually if you're hey, I'm coming with friends, they're these people, can we get 2 rooms next to each other? Usually they'll try and accommodate you. Again, depending on how busy the con is, basically determines how well they can accommodate that. Room block for something like Colossal Con, you will take what you're given and you'll be lucky you got something.
This actually would have been a fun hotel to stay in, which I do not say often.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This and themed hotels are pretty much the 2 things that will get me, I think.
Yep.
So 2027, if we go back to this con, the four of us are going to try to get 2 hotel rooms if it's the same
Yeah,
hotel and hotel block.
Yep.
which I do think would be fun.
Yeah, but again, on this one, we deliberately got an Airbnb, as we usually do for conventions. So this one was about a 12-minute drive, I think it
Yeah,
was.
Peoria is not that big, so it was fairly easy, and there was cheap Airbnbs in the area, so I just picked one with actually decent reviews.
Yep.
So
This was actually quite a nice Airbnb by our standards.
yeah, a lot of times Airbnbs with decent reviews are just Airbnbs that are aggressively fine that really push you to give them good reviews.
Yep.
This one, like, actually, I think had like. I don't particularly like anyone who owns Airbnbs because I believe that owning property should not be a job, but this person at least put thought and effort in, or persons, because like one of the signs said you could call like 3 different numbers if there was a problem.
Yeah, with 3 different people.
Like they labeled everything. They had good quality toilet paper.
Yeah.
They had beds with way too many pillows.
Yeah, the number of pillows was a little excessive, but like that's fine.
You can't just remove the pillows.
Yeah.
It's better to have too many pillows than too few pillows.
Exactly.
Yes.
But again, like check-in instructions were clear and simple.
Shower was decent.
Shower was decent. Like I have no criticisms or complaints about this Airbnb.
And like it had 3 bedrooms, which is very reasonable.
Yeah.
So.
I just appreciated the fact that everything was pretty clean.
Yeah.
Because I've stayed at a couple hotels in the past few months, and sometimes they're not. So.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, probably would recommend this as well. If
Yep.
the hotel block's full, we would probably stay at this again. So.
Yep. Yeah, like it worked pretty well.
If you were trying to get 6 people in there, I think it would be a little bit tight. Some of the beds are a little bit small for like 2 people, but
Yeah, but
other than that,
you probably could do it in a pinch. I wouldn't necessarily recommend
and if
it.
you're the type of person who's trying to get 6 people into a 3-bedroom suite, you're already the type of person who's going to be okay with like bodies close together. So I think
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
This is true. Yeah, whereas again, like this worked out fine. Again, to be fair, the couch was actually decent.
Yeah.
So basically decent Airbnb. Went back to it, unloaded the car, and then just went out to a fast food place and grabbed some dinner. Nothing fancy, but got us through the night.
Yeah, and I should emphasize, I think all 3 of us on this podcast have very different styles of eating, so food was just kind of a free-for-all this weekend.
Yeah,
Yep.
Which is absolutely fine.
it was mostly just kind of a figuring out what worked.
Because as you know, I have digestive issues, so I have to eat kind of alone late at night.
Yep.
Richard has kind of worked his life around that fact. And Bridget, I know you and James bring a lot of food to cons generally, just so you can save a little bit of money, which I think is smart.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I think we've saved a lot of money bringing food for cons because like my issue is it's not that I can't have the food at a con, but it's often just very overpriced and not that great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes, especially when I'm competing in masquerades, I don't have the time to go get something to eat, so I almost have to have it with me. So
Yeah,
it's better to just bring my own stuff.
yeah, especially if it's a busy con that like has one food place on site, and so therefore there's always a massive line. We've seen that problem plenty of times. But again, because this convention center didn't really have anywhere where you could get food, without leaving the space, it meant that that wasn't a real consideration at any point.
Yeah, and I've tried to get you to like bring foods to cons and stuff like that before. I think we just kind of run into the problem that like British style like snacking food and American style like snacking food that you can actually transport are just very, very different culturally. So it's just difficult for you.
It's one of those things. Like I absolutely can just make myself some sandwiches, but part of the time it's having the time to do it. And like finding stuff I like and all of that jazz. Like I absolutely can do that. It's just one more thing to carry with us, and like we already have to carry a bunch of stuff. Just by the nature of like the con bag itself is usually quite full. It's the best way to describe it.
And also, you grew up eating very well.
Yeah.
Your parents were great cooks, so
Yeah.
like Richard, I'm not saying that as though you're fat or anything. It's just like
I am somebody who went through a pretty major growth spurt as a teenager, so I'm still fairly on the skinny side, just by nature of like that. I've to quote Butterflies, I went through a period where I was cultivating my gaunt look. And if anybody gets that reference, congratulations, drop me an email. I want to know who you are. But it is very much one of those things that, like, if I'm going to the trouble to make something for myself, I want it to be kind of worth it. And I've said this before, cooking for yourself sucks. like cooking for other people, I find is is a lot of fun. Like I really enjoyed my parents being over for Christmas because it gave me an excuse to cook for other people, which I don't get to do terribly often. Because again, because of your digestive stuff, I don't get to cook for you terribly often. And again, it's the same with like sandwich prep and the like I can do it. It's just finding the time and finding the energy and all of that jazz. So yeah. So at that point, we all kind of like went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Getting used to the time change because it was the time had changed at that point, so we were all going to bed. What probably was about an hour earlier than normal.
Hour later, surely, because it would have been close to 11.
That's right. Yeah,
like,
we gained an hour, so
yeah, we
like
gained
it
an
was
hour.
technically earlier, but it felt later for us.
Yeah.
So we did that. We woke up. We planned to get to the con, I think, around 10 the next day.
Yeah.
Because that was around when things opened. And based on last night, we thought crowds would pick up the next day, so we wanted to get there early to get parking.
Yeah.
We were kind of wrong on a lot of those assumptions.
Yes, but so in terms of Saturday costumes, I was once again not in a costume.
I wore this new dress that I got for Christmas or over the holidays during the Black Friday period, which is a Monet style ball gown. I think we're still trying to figure out how to get it over the hoop correctly because it has a lot of different formations we can put it in.
Yes, I do think I think it still needs some adjustment in that regard because your hoop was definitely showing at the sides at a couple of points.
And these are a few of like my ball gowns that aren't really like a specific character. They're just kind of something I want to wear.
Yep.
Which is fine with me.
Yep. Again, you looked fantastic. You got a lot of compliments.
Yeah.
I wish I counted how many compliments you got. I should have kept track.
I've only ever done that at one con, and that's because that was Colossal Con on the last day when we also had Emma with us.
Yep.
Because I was curious to see whether Emma would get more compliments or she would, and it was damn close to a dead heat.
Yep. Shout out to the people who like complimented us both. So
yeah. I have no idea what the car was even complaining about there.
Sometimes it just gets annoyed.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. When you've got the lane assist on, sometimes it's like, oh, you aren't holding the wheel because you haven't done anything for a while. I haven't done anything for a while because I haven't needed to. Like, I'm physically holding the wheel. It's just, this is a straight road. I don't actually need to turn the wheel if there isn't a reason to. So, yeah.
You're at the part of where the GPS tells you for 120 miles, continue straight.
It currently says 109 miles, continue straight.
Okay, so I'm not far off there.
Yeah, that's actually impressively close.
Yeah, put it this way, when we turned onto this road, it was 150 miles. Stay straight.
That's rough.
So, yeah.
Oh, for those, for my cosplay, I did my masquerade performance outfit, which was Yang Xiaolong from Ruby, the Volume 1 version.
Nice.
Yeah, which meant you were wearing shorts again.
Yeah, short sleeves and shorts. That's most of my cosplays, though.
Yeah, I think this was the variant of the outfit that we met you in the first time.
Yeah, it was. And
Nice.
It still fits. So we're just, I'm glad it still works.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So, drove down. Again, like 10-minute drive, nice and simple, nice and straightforward. And then got in, and literally as we were walking in from the car park, you got a text message.
Yep. So I'm pretty sure when I signed up for the masquerade, they had you put in your phone number. At least I'm assuming that's what happened because I have no idea how else they got it. But I got a text as we were walking in from the cosplay head, basically just being like, hey, just a reminder to check in before noon for the cosplay contest. And which I thought was really funny because I was going to do that first thing when we walked in.
Yep.
But I thought that was actually very courteous and very nice because I know a lot of cosplay staff can get very overwhelmed, especially for big events. So the fact that they kind of took the extra step and was like, hey, this person hasn't checked in, let's make sure they're here.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's ever happened to me for Masquerade, so I thought that was nice.
Yeah. And again, so we basically sort of briefly split up for a moment because you went over to the cosplay booth to do your sign in.
Yep.
And we went over to the con ops / reception space to ask about their accessibility stuff.
Because we knew I wanted to watch Bridget in the Masquerade. Masquerades, particularly at smaller cons, tend to be like their main event. It's the equivalent of like the major celebrity Q&A or something like that. It's the biggest event there. And based on crowds yesterday, I didn't know what the line was going to be like or the line situation. And I have commented on this before. They don't really have a lot of cons, and this unfortunately was the case with this one, don't really have any accessibility information on their website, which makes it hard for people with accessibility issues, particularly ones that are invisible, to get information on it.
Yep. So I asked the question, and they basically said what they would their policy is you get a sticker on your badge, and with that you can skip lines. And if they're clearing a room and you need to stay in it, you just tell them that, and they will let you stay if you've got one of those stickers. Which pretty solid policy. Like, I'm glad they have that.
I will say, like, as a policy, I do think that's a policy that's clearly based on the series of cons they run, because I can't even imagine the clearing rooms thing being relevant at this con, because I don't think they did it.
No, they
don't need to.
Yeah, the only time that a room got cleared was for Masquerade, specifically because like the thing that was in it before ended at 3. Masquerade was at 5:30, or was it 5?
It's 5 o'clock.
But in between those two things, they did have a rehearsal, and they didn't want members of the public just coming in and out during the rehearsal. So that was kind of the only time that I think the room was closed to the public. Which I don't really have a problem with that, but we'll talk about the organization of that when we get there.
And I will say that system I do like as a policy. The difficult thing about these systems at any cons is you don't know how they're going to actually be enforced and which volunteers actually know about the policy and who's been trained on the policy. So policy itself is good. There's always still going to be a risk at cons that they don't effectively tell people about it.
Yeah.
And I do want to be very kind to volunteers because they have to learn a lot of stuff really quickly, but it is something for which, if you want to be accessible, you want to make sure that your volunteers know that and know how to handle those situations.
Yeah. And I will say that they didn't have the stickers behind the desk, which implies nobody else had needed one yet. Which, at least in part, is probably because people didn't know to ask about it.
Well, a lot of disabilities are also visible, and a lot of times if you have a visible disability, you don't need one.
Yeah, this is true.
If you say, or people can just see, but if you have an invisible disability, it can be a little bit harder.
But the person was just like, give me a minute while I go and grab them. They kind of roped somebody else to temporarily cover the desk while they went to get them. They went, they got them, and just simple standard sticker on your badge. Not too obvious. And again, we've talked in the past that there are kind of two ways to do disability notifiers, which is usually either something that's fairly obvious, that's usually a wristband, or it's something a bit more subtle, like a sticker on your badge.
And as somebody with an invisible disability, I tend to prefer the more subtle ones, just so it's a little bit less obvious to other people, because disability is something for which is still stigmatized, and you don't always necessarily want somebody to know. I can say how for some disabilities having a more immediately visible disability mark would be useful. Like if someone's blind and it's not obvious, you might need somebody else to know that they're blind. And that might be useful, whereas in other cases it might not be. So I get that it's like an either or thing. That said, any system is better than no system.
Yes. Yeah, we will take a non-perfect system over a non-existent system.
Yeah. And the fact that this con actually had a policy and thought about it does, I think, speak things in its favor. Even I don't think it was implemented quite well, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
We'll talk about when we get there. So, so at that point, I think we just headed into the vendors hall, didn't we?
Yeah, the vendors hall opened at 10, and we figured, well, it's not crowded now, so let's go into the vendors hall.
Yep. So, do you have much to say about the vendors hall, Bridget? Because to us, it looked like every other vendors hall we've ever been in.
I think for the most part, yeah. I was very surprised at the amount of empty tables, to be honest. I was a little disappointed in that. And I don't know if that was just because they didn't get enough people, or if people signed up and didn't show. We will never find out. But they definitely had a lot of space for more vendors if they wanted to fit more in there. But we weren't sure what to expect with this one, so I don't know if you guys had any specific thoughts.
Yeah, and there was also a certain amount of slightly odd decisions in terms of the vendors. So they had two different booths that were just selling, the classic, anime weapons, and, Nerf guns in the shape of, sci-fi weapons and things like that, which is fine. It's just for a vendors hall that size, having two stalls selling basically identical stuff seemed like a bit of a weird decision. Which does imply to me that was because they didn't actually get enough vendors for them to sort of say, thank you for applying. Unfortunately, we already have somebody who's doing the exact same thing. So both of them got to go, which I feel like a lot of other conventions would have just taken one of them.
My guess is they didn't get enough applicants.
Yeah.
Which good for the vendors. Easy for them to get in, because I know certain cons it's really hard to get in.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if they didn't even make their tables back.
Yes, I do worry about that this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to be fair, it depends how much they're charged, which again, unless we have a conversation with one of the vendors who's willing to like tell us a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, we will not know.
I was browsing the Anime Cons like subreddit this weekend, and somebody was like saying that they were having trouble. I don't know where this was selling some of their goods, but they were selling 3D printed stuff and crochet stuff, and I'm like, those are pretty oversaturated markets in the anime vendor crowd right now.
They are.
You did buy something, Bridget. You want to talk more about what you purchased? Why?
Sure. So I think I was on the Artist Alley side, or if you want to call it the Artist Alley side. And there was a booth that had a bunch of like really shiny anime artistic like stickers. And a lot of them were like textured. So like if you actually held it in your hand, there was like an actual texture to it. So I got a couple of the small stickers. I think they had like a 5 for $20 like deal, and like I wanted to get a couple, so I was like, I'll just get 5. And I feel like we've maybe seen them at other cons before. I have a business card from the vendor when he put my stuff in a bag, and I recognize the name, so I feel like maybe we've seen them before. But I was talking to them a little bit, and they said they are from Chicago, so it makes me wonder if they would even come to Ohio. But the stickers are really cute. Some of them are for friends, so if you are a friend of mine and you get a shiny sticker, now you know where it's from.
That's fair.
Yeah, that booth probably was my favorite of all the booths because I really like the art there and how shiny and fun they were.
Yep.
A lot of different styles too.
Yeah, we didn't end up getting anything, but
we don't tend to a lot in vendors halls, so.
yeah.
I was actually surprised I actually got something.
Yep.
While you were doing that, we were listening to some of because the voice actor they had there was by where that booth was. So we were listening to them have conversations just vaguely as we were kind of wandering around.
Yep.
Which were the equivalent of, you can ask me questions about voice acting. Be warned, I don't actually watch the shows I'm in, so I can't actually answer questions about that. I'm like, yep, that's pretty standard.
That's pretty normal.
I'm glad that's just a disclaimer that they're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like, like you can ask me about like specific plot events in episode 137, but
Well, it's funny, I've thought about that, and I've met quite a few voice actors at cons, and a lot of them do seem to be fans of their own work and the stuff that they do. But I know that at the end of the day, I think for some of them it is just a job, so they may not have the same enthusiasm as the fans. So I do try to keep that in mind when I do meet voice actors, because that not that they don't care, but it's just they don't have the same connection that like we do.
yeah. And like the thing is, a lot of them really appreciate when you tell them like how much their work in a particular thing meant to them. It's just you've got to understand that they are not going to have the same connection that you do.
This is part of why I do wish we kind of pushed industry guests to not just be voice actors or actors these days. Like, I've talked to you about this before, but I really want to meet like people who write and direct shows, because those are all the questions I have are about those questions. Other people who like, not that actors don't obviously bring their own things to roles, but I also think it'd be interested to hear about other industry stuff.
Yeah, so would I. Like, again, this is the thing. You and I are people who have done voice acting, but have also done like writing and directing of like audio material, and like they are all very different parts that all come together. Like, that's kind of the thing about collaborative media. Like, books are basically the only non-collaborative media we still have, and even now they are becoming more and more collaborative. Whether it's you are a writer but you have an editor, and the editor like ends up like kind of putting their own, adding their own voice to it. If you're somebody who's into audiobooks, an audiobook narrator can like really add or like subtly tweak things without even necessarily meaning to, in ways that really improve them. Like, again, I'm currently waiting on the next Dresden Files book, which comes out in like 10 days' time. And part of the reason I enjoy that series so much is the voice actor who performs the audiobooks, because he does such a good job of taking the written material and translating it into that audio format. And it's very much basically most media nowadays is collaborative, and it would be really great to hear from all of those different parts of the process. Like, I would love to, speak to an animator or a writer or a director or something like that for some of those shows, because I suspect that would be fascinating to hear about. But again, because the actors are always the ones who are the most visible, so they tend to be the ones that people think about the most. I think is that fair to say?
I think so.
Yeah.
I would like anime. You probably have the problem is a lot of people who originally made the anime probably don't speak English and
Yep.
get that.
Yeah.
Even then, just talking to people who translate would be interesting.
I want to say GalaxyCon and Animate have also tried to get some guests, I think, that are around that realm of stuff. I don't know how popular they are at the cons. I think I've seen a couple at their tables, and they never seem to be that popular, which is unfortunate.
Yep. Which, as I say, again, it's because generally speaking, people don't know who they are.
Right.
You know, I know some conventions will actively do like author sections for writers. Like Gen Con actually has an entire section of its vendors hall that is just authors. But most of those are people who are almost there to pitch their work rather than because they actually think people are going to be that interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Man, just to circle back, small vendors hall, decent enough. People seem nice.
Yeah.
All that jazz.
People are friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you got a bunch of compliments on your dress, like usual. Yeah. So after that,
Sumo wrestling panel.
sumo wrestling panel. Yep, which is kind of the first thing we did. Well, so we caught the last little bit of the Claire Obscura Exhibition 33 panel, which I kind of didn't want to go into until towards the end, just because I'm not that far into that game and I wanted to avoid spoilers. Because I started playing it. I got to the end of Act 1 and I kind of noped out for a while. I'll probably go back to it at some point. People who've played that game will understand why I noped out at the end of Act 1. You know, it is, you know, so I've been distracted by Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and then, you know, like, the health stuff happened and I've had less time to, you know, to be playing big games. So, you know, I'll go back to it eventually. It's a little French for my tastes, because, again, I'm required by law in England to hate the French. You know, it's very much a case of... But the thing that confused me about the tail end of this panel is they were presenting their slideshow on a TV, despite the fact there was a projector in that room.
Yeah, there was a giant projector because this was a room with very high ceilings and it was fairly well spaced. It was one that was definitely, we found out, separated by one of the divisions from the other rooms. You could take that apart to make it a big room. They had like, we've been talking about this. A lot of cons actually have problems with projectors where they like don't have projectors. You have to bring your own and it doesn't really fit in the room. This one had like a giant projector screen in the back that like was, for all intents and purposes, great.
Yeah, again, it was one of those projector screens that's built in. So, like, there was a switch somewhere back there where you pressed it and it just lowered out the ceiling, which I always appreciate when a convention center has those, because those are super useful. But I'm not sure if they were using that TV for the reason that the sumo wrestling panel had problems. Because we weren't there for the start of the panel, so we don't know. Because
they clearly brought the TV in because it was like it left with them, so they clearly expected to use it.
Maybe based on what I overheard, it might be that they did the same thing that the people at the New Year's Furry Ball did, which is they basically borrowed it from the video game room, which was just across the hall.
I remember I thought I saw some other people, maybe staff, carrying other boxes that looked like TV monitors. So I don't know if maybe they're owned by the con.
Maybe.
I could see that.
But yeah. So again, I have no specific opinions on the Claire Obscura panel just because we didn't see enough of it.
It was a bit weird, but again, I think given that these panel rooms were like, you know, they're pretty big, but they didn't have that many people in them, I don't think using the TV was necessarily a bad idea for it. It was also clear, so that was nice.
So the main issue. So we then went to we went into the room kind of right at the tail end of that panel and got seats kind of nearish to the back, and then the people doing the sumo wrestling panel started setting up, and we were like, do we want to move up or are we kind of okay here? And we were like, well, given that they're setting up the projector and given how big it is and like the room isn't big enough that they need microphones, we should be okay where we are. So we kind of just stayed, well, not quite the back row, but the one in front of it. And then they had problems insofar as the projector wasn't like the brightest, and so they were like, okay, well we'll turn the lights off in the room so that you can see it clearer.
Which took them about 5 minutes, not because they weren't trying, but because, as is typical for convention rooms that we've discovered, the lighting system makes zero sense. It's
Yep.
not intuitive
Yep.
to anyone.
There was like 12 switches, no labeling, so you had no idea what any of them did. So it was much trial and error. They did eventually manage to get the lights off that they needed off in order that like we could mostly see it, and then the lights came back on again. And we realized that the reason for that is that because this room and the room next door are frequently one room, the lights were synced, which means we couldn't turn the lights off in our room without turning them off at the panel room next door, who needed them on.
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty common problem, and I do find it interesting for cons generally, because most cons will have these room dividers where you can make the rooms bigger or smaller, which is good, it's practical, but a lot of them keep them on the same lighting system, or sometimes also the same audio system, which has created even more problems.
Yeah, we had that once, where the audio of the one room was coming out the speakers in the room next to it.
And I don't know, like, they did eventually manage to fix that problem, which indicates to me that probably for the lighting, there probably is a way to fix it also.
Yeah.
But I think you also have to have like a master's degree in whatever the electrician light switch is to figure it out. So it's just kind of not viable for the average person.
Yeah,
Yep.
which again was at least in part because they didn't have that many staff at this convention, so there wasn't really anybody that the panelists could ask for help. They just had to kind of figure it out on their own.
I don't think they had a tech team.
Nope, not that I saw. But you know, again, they soldiered on. So, what did you think of this panel?
Me or Bridget?
Either. I don't care.
We gotta buzz in.
Why don't you start, Bridget?
I can start. I liked it because the style of panel was very much how I've done panels. It's very academic and lecture based, and you guys have been to a couple of my panels, so you kind of know how I do my panels. So I enjoyed it in that sense. I think kind of watching it made me think of how I do my own panels and how I can make them better. But the panel was very lecture based with some visuals, talking about like the history of sumo wrestling, how it's different from what we see in a lot of pop culture franchises, stuff like that, and talking about some of the main points and how it's a big thing in Japan. But I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I did catch myself zoning out a few times, and I think that's normal. I think a lot of people that attend my panels also do that, but then they go in and out, and I think honestly that's kind of acceptable and normal for most people. So
It's just, I think, a learning in a lecture style based stuff works as somebody who teaches. Like, that's the reason why you vary up the lectures and, like, put other stuff in that they can do in between to kind of keep them on their toes and stuff like that. But it's hard to do that at a con. And, like, at a con, the goal is not teaching, it's more just kind of giving information in a more general sense, which I thought this was good. It was pitched at the right level. They explained sumo wrestling as though you knew nothing about sumo wrestling, which is good because I didn't know anything about sumo wrestling.
Yep, like basically all I knew about it was the stuff I've acquired through pop culture osmosis, which is where I think 90% of the people in the room were.
Yeah,
probably.
They had some clips, which I liked that they interspersed throughout.
Yep.
It was a little bit hard to see just because of the projector screen problems, but other than that, I thought it was really good. I learned a lot about it, and like, you know, as an educational panel, it was really interesting. And I really like panels where it's somebody's main hobby and interest. They know a lot about it, and they do a good job explaining it, which they did. And they also timed the panel nearly perfectly.
They did.
Which is somebody who works in education, big skill set if you can time your stuff perfectly.
Oh,
yeah, and so far as this panel was 11 till 12.
Yep.
And they ended it at 10 to 12 with any questions.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Which basically meant they had time to get everything, like, you know, all their stuff torn down before the next person needed to get their stuff set up for the panel that was after them. Like, excellently timed, chaps. You know, they did flat state that, like, there was a sumo tournament about to start that day, so they were going to be like watching it in their room or whatever it was, and that if anybody was interested and wanted to join them, they were very welcome to. Yeah, which again, that was a sweet way to like end it. That was fun.
We should have done that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we should have. No kidding. But, I hope that they do the panel again at other cons. I hope that they like get a chance to do it more. I'm assuming this was not their first time doing it though, based on how well it went.
Yeah, and they had stage presence, which I think means they probably had practice being on stage.
Yes. But again, ultimately, it felt like two nerdy friends, like, telling you about the thing they are passionate about, which I always really like in a con like this. And the other advantage is host and co-host tends to be better for this kind of lecture style panel than just individual, unless the individual is very charismatic. The person we met at Fan Expo GalaxyCon, who does the like microbiology panel, they are charismatic enough that they can pull off doing that panel basically on their own. Whereas like other people, it just works better with two people. Like there's a reason you use me as a co-host. You can do it on your own.
But I'm not charismatic enough to do it on my
Oh
own.
no, you are charismatic enough to do it on your own. It's just easier to do it with
Wait,
a
it is
co-host.
nice to have a break from talking occasionally, so I can just give you like something to explain for a second, so I can catch my breath.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Get some water, you know.
Yeah.
Or just prevent yourself from rambling.
Yep.
Which again, that's sometimes useful and necessary.
Yeah, this was a great educational panel. At least people do more panels.
We did have one mild annoyance with people behind us who were kind of like whispering in an annoying way at one point, so we just moved up a couple of rows because it wasn't that busy. But
Well, it was like I didn't understand why they were sitting behind us when like this was a fairly empty panel room, and they could have sat somewhere that was like not behind people who were watching the panel.
Yep.
And talked if they wanted to do that, but they didn't. So
But again, we just moved up a couple of rows and it was fine.
crosstalk just gives me kind of a migraine headache, so it's just easier if I don't hear it a lot of the time.
Yeah, and
Like- I don't judge people who are like on their phones or stuff like that. I get like that's normal for panels, but
and at one point we were getting some noise pollution coming in from the corridor, and somebody just kind of like
they were
stood up.
yelling the word 17 over and over again. I didn't understand why.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get that.
No clue. So somebody just went up and closed the door too, which did actually do a pretty good job of cutting off the noise. And I will say this: I don't think we were getting any noise pollution through from panel room 1. Which frequently, if you're in one of those convention centers that has dividers that split a room into multiple parts to make different rooms, those frequently suffer from noise pollution problems. I didn't notice any at this convention center. Now, granted, I don't think there was like any loud parties or anything going on, which we've had before.
My favorite was when we were doing the I think it was Anthro, Ohio. This was when we started the podcast.
The first year.
We were doing the feedback panel, and they scheduled the feedback panel to be next to the electronic dance music dance.
Yeah, and
Which was great.
one of the complaints was there's been a lot of noise pollution this weekend. Like bleeding through from the room next door, and I'm like, yeah, we know. We're also aware that this hotel is no longer big enough for us, and we are moving to a different venue next year, so hopefully that'll be fixed. So it was just quite funny that we were having to shout to complain about the level of noise pollution.
So what did we do after the panel? We went to was it the improv show?
Yeah, we went to the improv show briefly.
Briefly.
So let's talk about improv shows at conventions. So they've freely admitted this is a panel that used to be called Whose Line Is It Anime? We've seen quite a few groups do Whose Line panels.
And I will say, these panels are very, very hard to pull off. Comedy at cons is a lot harder than you think it is, and you really need to have an understanding of con culture, an understanding of crowd work, and it really needs to be something you've done in more than just this capacity to pull off. If you are just a con comedian and you've only done 1 or 2 cons, this is just hard.
Yeah.
Comedy, I want to emphasize, is also hard. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, it is. This particular group, I do not know what they were called.
I think they were just kind of people who were associated with con or con staff. I don't really know the exact capacity of them.
Yeah, so they were doing 2 different performances over the course of the weekend. This one, which was at 12:30, and another one at, I think it was 8:30. So this one was their all ages one, and the 8:30 one was their 18 plus one.
And I will also admit, because this is a common panel, and I've commented on this before, because we go to so many conventions, our standard, I do think, is just kind of higher than a lot of people's, because we've seen the best versions of stuff like this done by people. So we just kind of, when it's not that best version we've seen done, it's just a little bit harder for us to kind of like it as much. Again,
we've seen this particular thing done at furry cons by just a group of incredibly funny people. And the other thing that the FurryCon versions tend to do is they will frequently have a version that is done by a group of comedians, and they will also have an audience participation version. And here's the thing, if you've not done a Whose Line panel before, I would strongly recommend doing the audience participation version. Make it an 18 plus, because people are going to curse. But here's the thing, especially if you're doing something like World's Worst or Lines from a Hat, which are like somebody goes up, says a one-line joke, and then steps back. It works better with a with audience participation because here's the thing: most of the audience can probably come up with one funny joke, which means that what you get is 30 people
All telling their best joke.
all telling their best joke, as opposed to 4 people who have to come up with 30 funny jokes on the fly. Because that's hard.
It's hard. It's hard to do well. It's hard to work the crowd. This panel also suffered from the problem, and I'm not sure this is on the panelists, but it was a problem, which is just they only had one microphone for
Yep.
5 people, and this was a very big room.
Yes.
Like a room where you needed people to have microphones because it was difficult to hear. We were in the front row.
We were in the front row. And I'm going to be honest, this group got off topic very easily. Like, they were doing their introductions of the 4 panelists, and then they introduced the first panelist, then they got distracted talking about something else, and it took them like 2 minutes to introduce the second panelist, which kind of already raised my eyebrows of oh boy.
Well, this is one of those things where if you're doing comedy or any type of thing like that, you do need to. Your indicator is again always going to be the crowd, and is the crowd laughing? Like if the crowd is starting to laugh or chuckle, that means you should keep going with the bit because the bit is working.
Yep.
If they're just kind of sitting there while you're talking, that's an indicator that the bit is not working.
Yeah.
I know it seems obvious, but I don't know if this group fully got that. So,
Yeah, well, the thing is, this group was laughing.
which is a problem we have noticed before.
Yes. We noticed this at Con Alt Delete a couple of years ago. There are certain groups, when they do this kind of Who's Line panel, who seem to be more interested in making each other laugh than the audience laugh. Like, they seem to assume if they're laughing, the audience will also enjoy it. And, yeah, that's not always the case.
And I will say this was, in some ways, they actually did have a favorable crowd for this just because they did have a full room. Comedy in an empty room where there's only like 2 or 3 people is very, very hard because
Yeah.
the thing about laughter is it's obviously infectious. So if one person starts laughing, other people will start laughing, and it's just fun to be in a group of people, a room that's laughing. And this was a pretty full room.
Yeah,
Like,
but this was about the fullest I think we saw the room up
Yeah,
until the cosplay contest.
yeah, so about like 50% full, maybe a little bit under, but it was a big room. So there was at least like 50-ish people there.
50 to 100 at least.
Yeah. Which is definitely enough of a crowd that you can work the crowd if you have like fun jokes and stuff like that.
Yep.
The other thing I did notice that I kind of had a quibble about was they weren't really, we only stayed for one skit, but they were not staying in character or doing bits that were related to their character. So
Yeah.
typical improv comedy, you're assigned a character or a characteristic and you have to play up that characteristic. And it's stuff like being scared. Like you're in this case, I think something like a barbarian who's afraid of fights or something like that. You can play that up. That's actually very, pretending to be afraid when you're like a big manly dude is a great way to just get very, very easy laughs.
So yeah, because part of the issue was that the first game they did was job interview, and they did it as, you know, okay, you are going to be the interviewer, and you know, here are the quirks of the people you're interviewing. Normally, when you do a game like job interview or party quirks or something like that, you get the person who's doing the interview to leave the room. Then you assign the quirks to the people.
And you also generally take audience suggestions. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you can veto stuff if it's just not going to be funny or
Yeah.
appropriate or whatever, but you take a few audience suggestions and then just pick the one you think is going to be the funniest.
Yeah. And then the person comes back into the room and they have to figure out what the quirk is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one, they didn't do that. Which
Yeah, they
meant,
just knew the quirk, which meant that people weren't encouraged to, like, play up what their quirks were to give people clues that that was what they were.
Yeah.
The whole point of that is an improv game, and the reason why it's an improv game is because you're trying to give the person hints, you're going to be funny doing that because you have to be this over-the-top character to get the other person to guess who you are.
yes.
Whereas this was just people interviewing and asking questions, and half the times they weren't even related to the party quirks, and
Right.
they weren't actually, like, doing party quirks most of the time.
Yeah.
And
We were just kind of sitting there going, this isn't working, is it?
no.
And at that point, we were just like, should we just tap and go somewhere else?
And I want to emphasize, I don't think this group of people is bad people, and I definitely think they could do this better. I just think they need a little bit more, like, polishing at what they do, maybe.
And again, like, I'm going to be honest, I would have started with a different game. I would have started with something more rapid fire. because rapid fire humor and jokes are usually better for warming an audience up than the more long form stuff.
And I also want to emphasize we both do, like, none of us are specific improv performers, and we're definitely not saying that, like, we could do things better than other people, because we know it's hard, but we do have experience, which is why we're talking like this. It's just because it is something that we, at this point in our lives, we have some experience doing. So
Yes.
and for that reason, it's also a little bit easier for us to be like, well, you should do it this way.
Yeah, because again, we know how we would have done it, and I don't honestly know if it's better or worse. Mostly the good ideas are things I've nicked off, like Alkaline Boozy and that group, from the Furcons. So I know they work really well there, but I don't know if they work really well everywhere. Like, every comedian is going to bomb at some point.
Yeah,
so.
that's the thing. Like, you're always going to have a dead room. You're always going to not get the tone right. And it's one of those things where, because comedy is so infectious, like, when it goes well, it goes really well, and when it goes poorly, it goes really poorly. That's part of the game a lot of the time. And it's sometimes really hard to get stuff back on track.
Yeah.
But we have done a version of this on stage at least once. So.
Yeah. Multiple times you include the audience participation.
The audience participation ones we've done a lot. We have done it, like, at where we were admittedly the backup group after Alkali and Boozy couldn't make the con.
Yeah.
But
they asked us to be part of that panel.
Yeah, and I had fun. The audience did laugh, which I think was good.
Yeah.
You did your job.
Yep.
We did. So, did you have any other thoughts about this one, Bridget?
I think you guys covered most of it. Basically, my thoughts were, it essentially felt like a bunch of friends trying to make each other laugh, like you said, and didn't really have any kind of connection to the audience. Like, they didn't really acknowledge the audience was there. Like, and I'm trying not to sound like they did a bad job, because I'm sure it was fun for them, and in some situations this type of thing can work. But that was the issue that I kind of had with it, and which is why we kind of tapped out early.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with mostly what you said. You guys kind of covered it.
Yep. So yeah.
I do want to emphasize we didn't see the full thing, so it could have gotten funnier later. Maybe it did. I don't know.
Maybe it did. Who knows?
Maybe they got themselves together after we left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were not the first people to leave either.
We were not.
And we did not stay that long.
Yeah, we because again, we were in the front row. There were two other people in the front row. The two other people in the front row got up and left before we did. So yeah. So at that point, I think we just headed over to the games room for a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, this was set up similar to, like, the other Connaught Elite games room, where they didn't have really much of a games library. It was more like a games table.
Yeah, they had a few things there, like nothing particularly spectacular, but a few of the basics. They had Poetry of the Neanderthals, which you and I we like as a quick go-to con game.
What did you think of that game, Bridget?
I thought it was fun. I'd never played it before, and it was pretty easy to learn. Because that's sometimes the issue with me. Like, not that I don't like learning how to play new games, but it's just an extra step before you actually get to enjoy the game. So I appreciate the fact that it was easy to learn and pick up, and so I had a good time playing that.
And yeah, the games room was relatively quiet while we were in there. I think there was somebody else playing, like, checkers at the table next to us.
Yep.
And there were also, like, some people across where I think we're doing some Cards Against Humanity type game.
Yep. And at one point, somebody came in and started playing Battleship.
Yep.
But yeah, so we played.
Which is annoying, by the way. You probably didn't catch this, but they kept saying "miss," and because students sometimes just call me "miss," my head kept turning because I thought somebody was talking to me as opposed to saying stuff in Battleship. So.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
I didn't catch that either.
No, it was driving me crazy.
Because again, your correct title is Doctor.
It is, but I get everything from, like, Miss Christoph to various other things. I said my last name. It's fine. You already know what the heck it is.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah. So at that point, we had contemplated going to the panel on, like, Present Your OC. But we kind of.
The room was cold earlier. That was kind of my main thing.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to deal with more cold.
It was really cold in there.
Yeah. Which is not on the con. Like, frankly, temperature problems are just going to be every convention ever that's existed.
Yeah. Cause here's the thing. Generally speaking, one of a few things is going to happen with a convention center. They're either going to over-predict the number of people who are going to be there, which means they're going to have the AC cranked up to compensate for the body heat, and as a result, the room ends up cold. They're going to underestimate the number of people who will be there, in which case they will undercrank the AC and the room ends up sweltering, or they are going to get very, very lucky and hit it dead on the head and get it perfect. That's happened to us like 3 times.
And that's keep in mind that probably does happen some of the time, but it's not gonna happen for all the rooms. All the rooms have their own things going on. It's just
Yep.
But the games room is actually relatively nice, so
That was manageable.
So I think we stayed there and played the game that our friends got us for holidays.
Yep. Ransom notes.
Yep. It is a Cards Against Humanity-esque game where you have prompts, but you can like make your own things based on little like magnet words you put on the board. So
It's very fun.
yeah,
It's only the second time we played it, so yeah, we were still getting used to it. We're
it
a long
isn't
way
too
before.
one both times we played it though.
Yeah, I do seem to be good at this one. I think it's mostly because like I'm willing to write really weird stuff. Like, not that you aren't, but like I take it to some weird.
But everyone had
places.
some good moments in that game, so I liked it
Yeah.
a lot. And again, the games room was nice insofar that it was small, but it was quiet, so it was nice there. So after that, I think we dropped Bridget off for Masquerade, and this is where our stories deviate a little bit. So
So you've kind of already heard our half of it insofar as this was the time period in which I ordered food and went and got it and then ate it.
and a child threw paper airplanes my general vicinity.
Yep.
I want to emphasize they weren't being a pest at all. They were just kind of throwing paper airplanes into space where I happened to be next to it and in my dress once. It was just kind of funny.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so basically, we went out, we got food. We came back, we parked up again in the same spot, and then we went over to the hotel to eat it. So we ate it in like that lobby area I mentioned. Nobody cared that we were doing that, so great.
Always a plus.
So while we were doing that fascinating thing, how was Masquerade rehearsal, Bridget?
So Masquerade rehearsal started at 3:30, and the Masquerade contest actually started at 5. So it gave us about an hour and a half to go through everything. And if you're not familiar with Masquerade rehearsals, if you don't compete or don't participate, usually they're held the day of the convention contest or the day of the contest itself. In the past, I've had them be held in the morning where you show up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. They run through everything, and then you can enjoy the con until the contest starts. But this one was different because they held the rehearsal right before the contest started. And I actually kind of like that because you don't have to worry about getting to the convention center in the morning on time to get there before it's too late, kind of a thing. Because a lot of the times, if you don't show up for your rehearsal slot or your rehearsal time, they won't let you participate. So it's very important that you get there and show up. But basically what happened was I got there at 3:30. They kind of wrangled everybody together. They introduced themselves, like the cosplay staff and everything, and then they put us in our show order and had us sit down in that order. And then after that, they ran through all of the performances and the walk-ons and kind of did that. So this one was interesting because they had the walk-ons, which are the craftsmanship people, and then the performers kind of interspersed between each other. It is a smaller competition, so I think it gave them the chance to do that. Usually in Masquerades, they will do the performances first, and then they'll do the craftsmanship after to keep them separate. So I thought it was interesting that they mixed us together, which I kind of liked actually. And you guys saw the show, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit. But
and you had some people doing both, right?
yeah, I wasn't sure how that worked, but yeah, like if you were gonna do both, basically when you did your performance, you had already gotten your prejudging done for the craftsmanship. But there were people that just did performance like me, so you had the option to do one or the other or both. And in terms of the logistics of getting through rehearsal, it was actually very straightforward, which I do appreciate. There's been a couple rehearsals I've had where there's just a lot going on, and it's been a little unorganized. So this one was actually very straightforward, very easy. Got to run my dance on the stage once, full out, which was great, and that was pretty much it. So I think at that point they had, maybe when we finished, there was like 10 minutes before, like 4:50, I want to say. We had like 20 minutes before the contest started, so they let us, go to the bathroom, all that stuff, before they had us come back, before they let everybody else in.
Cool. Yeah, we got there about 20 minutes beforehand. It was kind of chaotic in the whole way.
Yes. So obviously they had the doors closed while the rehearsal was going on, but there wasn't, as far as I could tell, there wasn't a staff member out there to wrangle the crowd.
And as normal, there's no accessibility line. I didn't really expect there to be one, but I at least expected there to be a staff member where I could like talk and ask questions about like, hey, I have a disability. What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to stand? Can I go in already? Like, it would have been nice to have somebody there to at least like talk to.
Yeah,
But there was no one.
there was
There was no one wrangling a line. There was kind of sort of half of a line, but it was mostly just kind of people milling about. It was very confusing.
Yeah, like the British person in me was appalled by the line management or lack thereof.
And there were also people walking in and out of the room constantly, and it was just very confusing.
Yeah, we couldn't figure out if the people going in and out of the room were just like random people or if they like were like people like you who'd been to rehearsal, had done their rehearsal bit, and then like run out for a bathroom break or something like that. You know, like it was mostly just trying to figure it out was kind of annoying.
I think I just took you guys in with me
You
when
did.
I came out of the bathroom.
Like, why don't you just take us in, and we'll like, which worked out well because then they let people in immediately after that. So
Yeah,
I think when I opened the door, I think everybody else kind of followed because I think it was like 4:55 at that point, so people needed to start coming in because it was going to start soon.
yeah, they did like shout, opening the doors.
yep. But people might have already been walking in at that point, so they didn't really have much of a choice to opening the doors. So
Yep. Yeah, so we plunked ourselves in the audience because this was the classic thing of the participants were basically given 4 rows, 5 rows on the left-hand side.
It's like 5 or 6 rows on the left,
which tends to be pretty, I think, standard, right? Because a lot of times, like sometimes they'll have a green room or put you backstage. Most often, I think they put you guys in the audience.
Yeah, I know. GalaxyCon Columbus this past year, they would usually seat us on the left side, but when we were finished, they just said we could just sit anywhere in the audience, which was different this time.
But yeah, so we had a little bit of fun getting a suitable seat for you. Just again because there was
no accessibility seating. That's honestly very common. I didn't even expect there to be that. The only place I've even seen that is Colossal Con.
Yep.
And in smaller cons you can ask, but I found a seat that was like I was doing okay at, but then randomly, so this cosplay contest started in kind of a weird way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, they had an opening act which was 4 people.
Yeah.
Which meant when those 4 people like went to go near the stage, suddenly the chairs they'd been kind of like holding down became available, and I basically went up and snagged a couple of them for us.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. So we did that. They did not introduce these people. They were just kind of, when they were milling about, they were sort of in the chairs, but they were mostly just kind of hanging around that general area.
Yeah, which was kind of confusing to us.
And then they walked up on stage and did a dance. That was just the start. No one introduced them or said who they were.
Yep.
And they did this dance, which was fine enough.
Perfectly fine.
And then the MC came on and still didn't say who they were.
Yep. At this point, I have no idea who.
Yeah, I have no idea who those people were. Like maybe they were just people who just did a flash mob and no one knew.
If I brought 2 costumes, I could have done that.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, the people in the back didn't know a music choice, so it wasn't like they didn't have music for them. But...
Yeah, like it was clearly a planned intro. It was just not one that they ever acknowledged at any point. Like I was expecting the MC to basically come in and go, "Wow, how about that group?" But tell us who they were. Give them a big cheer and thank you for kicking off our show in such a great fashion.
No, it was nothing.
None of that. Public speaking 101. Introduce your topic or whatever,
Yeah, and those people did not seem in any way annoyed that we stole their seats. They basically just grabbed their stuff and left.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just kind of weird.
And yeah, they didn't explain I do actually appreciate it when cosplay contests explain for the people for whom it's their first cosplay contest how it works. It takes about 5 minutes to do, but I actually do really appreciate it just because it's always going to be somebody's first cosplay contest, so explaining the different categories and how they work, I think, would be a little bit helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. It was also, I was initially a bit confused about the ordering, because, Bridget, I'm sure you knew this because you saw it beforehand, but it's very unusual for them to kind of mix craftsmanship and performance the way they did. I liked it. It was just kind of confusing because I wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
For the purpose of the actual show, I actually liked it a lot for the overall flow of things. It's the first time I've actually had that happen. I was a little confused, and this is more based on the rules on Anime Zap website in terms of the masquerade stuff. They weren't really clear on if you want to do both craftsmanship and performance, how that works. that doesn't concern me. That didn't concern me because I'm not a craftsman. I just perform, but it was a little confusing how they worded that stuff. So I was just like, all right, we're just gonna kind of see what happens when we show up and go from there. But for the actual show, I thought that was a cool way to do it.
Yeah, like again, having them basically, and the MC did for all of them make it very clear, like whether they were craftsmanship, performance, or both, which I do appreciate. So they would basically say, okay, next up is such and such. Here's their introductory spiel, and like it was very clear that the things that the MC were reading off were what they'd been provided by the people who were about to be on stage. Because I'm assuming when you signed up, you probably had to like write a little intro spiel.
Yeah, there was a section where you could write a little intro for the MC,
Oh,
and it
we're
could
in
be
Indiana. We're getting close to it.
No, we've been in Indiana for a while.
Oh, sweet.
I saw the Indiana sign.
It's like, yeah, the potholes are back.
No, I did notice that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying, so it was very clear for the audience. It's mostly just, again, I do agree with you, a little bit more explanation of what performance is, what craftsmanship is, and what awards they were going to give out would have been nice. But yeah, so they basically brought. It looked to me like they were basically getting a row at a time, racking them up along the side, and then obviously bringing them up on stage either one at a time or like in their groups.
Yeah, and it actually was, I think, fairly evenly divided at this con. About half the people did only crafts, or like a third of the people did only craftsmanship, a third of the people did only performance, and a third of the people did both, like pretty evenly. Like not exactly evenly, but that seemed to be about the distribution.
I'd say there were more people doing both than any of the other two categories, but I do agree that they had a reasonable mix.
Yeah. And some of the performances I want to emphasize were one thing I also did really like with this is Eve, because I have issues on both like the craftsmanship and performance side, but one of the issues I always have on the craftsmanship side is like, especially the bigger cons, like you do pre-judging, which is when they look closely at your costume, and that's when they basically make the decisions by looking at the actual construction of your costume, and then the on-stage portion is mostly like a showcase, which is fine. But they don't spend a lot of time working on these costumes, and a lot of times the showcase is just like, okay, 3 of you are on stage at once, you get to do like one pose, and that's it.
Yep.
Whereas this one, you got to pick your own music for your character. You could do a couple poses, and you could like really show off the costume, even if you were just doing the construction portion of it, which I actually really liked, because I feel like sometimes construction doesn't really get as much time to shine on stage as performance does. Just by definition, they have to be on stage for a shorter time period. So I really like that they did that.
Yeah.
They also had exhibition at the end, which is people who didn't want to be judged but just show off their cosplay, and they let them pick their own music too, which was awesome.
Yeah, actually, I enjoyed that too because it let them kind of showcase some of the stuff of their costume that maybe that you wouldn't get to if you just posed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was awesome, and it like brought their characters to life. And a couple of the people who were doing performance basically did an elongated version of that, whereas opposed to like doing singing or dancing or something like that is posed in elaborate ways, which I don't think any of them won anything, but honestly, if that's the performance you want to do, I thought a lot of them actually really did embody their character as well.
Yeah. Like the opening person who had this like very interesting take on Pyramid Head, like their performance was basically sort of lurching around the stage, dragging the swords, with the like creaky sound taken from Sail and Till. That worked great.
Yeah, they got the movements on it right. It was a simple piece, but I'm glad that they entered performance to show that off because I could tell they practiced it.
Yeah.
And I believe they won Best Prop.
Yeah, they did Best Prop, which for the Pyramid Head, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they won it for the giant sword or the
Pyramid
or the
Head. I don't know
head.
if they had counted as a prop, but they probably. I really liked their Pyramid Head. It was a very pretty Pyramid Head that had like rubies on it. It was very well decorated.
Yeah, and like flowers and stuff.
Because I've seen a lot of cardboard Pyramid Heads. Not shitting the cardboard Pyramid Head, but this was definitely a level above that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like this was, they deserve the Best Prop win.
Yeah.
In fact, I think when they announced that the first award they were giving out was Best Prop, I think I actually leaned over to you and was like, go to the Pyramid Head, do you think?
Yeah, I also want to emphasize at this point, we were by the cameras that were filming.
Yeah.
So did they actually film it? I thought I
don't
saw
know.
there. Okay. I wonder if I'll have to see if I can find it somewhere.
In fairness, the person we saw filming, we don't know if they were actually associated with the official con at all. I assume they probably were, given they were talking to the MC.
They were talking to the MC, and at multiple points they were like helping load stuff on and off the stage.
Yeah.
Like the person who was responsible for that camera was the person who was setting up the stripper pole later. So I'm assuming they're associated with the con. I'm gonna have to explain that statement when we get there. But yeah, so we watched the people come up again. There was some very there were some good acts, there were good performances. A lot of live singing at this one.
It's becoming
Yeah.
more and more the norm, I think. And yeah, I liked how they like. I really anyone who gets up on stage to perform, I want to do respect because it is hard to do that. And anyone who gets up on stage, particularly at a con like this, deserves to be there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it all. It is also is interesting because I do feel like performance is becoming the more popular con category because construction was dominant, I think, for so long, and it feels like performance is like now taking back or wanting to be more of that dominance categories where I'm seeing more and more performances as opposed to construction. And I have a theory that that's because construction's been taken over by sew bunnies.
Okay, explain that.
So wait,
sentence,
so
please.
bunnies?
Sew bunnies. It's what you call somebody who sews a lot. It's one of the terms. It's not derogatory in any way. It's just you call them a sew bunny.
It's like a cardio bunny.
What?
This sounds like a term you made up.
It's not. I've heard people say it. I follow fashion.
Uh-huh.
Email the podcast if you're a sew bunny.
Okay.
Or just like and subscribe.
Well, I was gonna say, I think I agree with you, Caroline, because of the whole performance kind of becoming more the norm than just the craftsmanship.
Mhm.
I do feel like, considering I've done a bunch of masquerades the past few years, and I feel like it is becoming more popular, but I still feel like craftsmanship is like the dominant thing of when you think someone's a cosplayer.
Yeah.
And I hope that at some point there will be a shift where it's like, yes, you could have the people that create their own stuff, and that's great, and they have a lot of talent because I cannot do any of that stuff. But I hope that people also realize that performance can also have its place and not be second to craftsmanship.
I think there's definitely a space for both, and you should have both. It's also just it's one of those things, and we've been talking about this a lot. And probably will talk about it with this cosplay contest. It's just because there's so many amazing ways to cosplay. Unfortunately, the nature of competition tends to homogenize those ways to play or cosplay in ways that aren't always great. That's what I mean by the homogenization of construction. Is there's still some obviously disagreement about this, but more and more these days, a lot of competitions, although not all, but a lot of competitions are very, very sewing focused in terms of cosplay, which means that it's going to be, cosplay is already female dominated, which great. There's not enough stuff that is female dominated, but
Yeah.
it means that they don't tend to privilege things like armor builds anymore or a lot of other stuff. And it means you have to learn this very, very specific skill set, which might not be what everyone wants to do. And it also, I think, limits creativity because, frankly, as somebody who does make their own cosplay, I like working with stuff that's more interesting than sewing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I like doing different stuff, even if the techniques aren't really what they're looking for a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the performance side, I think there's a little bit of an issue with the homogenization too, because there's really no way to judge a performance or a different set or variety of performances on one specific set of criteria. Like I know that I've gone to enough masquerades that I can kind of tell when I look at the results, okay, these judges definitely prioritized skits over musical numbers or prioritized singing over skits or something like that. And that can get tricky because it doesn't quite give a fair chance to every different kind of performance you can encounter because they're all being judged on the same criteria that could basically prioritize one specific kind of performance, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. Like, because one of the rules that we did, because we did look up the rules out of curiosity, and they have a no plagiarism rule.
well, Bridget knew the rules.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I look at the rules.
You did them, as you should.
yes. But like, they have a no plagiarism rule. But we were trying to figure out, okay, so if you are, for example, doing an idol dance and you are deliberately replicating a dance from some show, does that count as plagiarism, or is that just playing the character? So we assume that the plagiarism rule is mostly if somebody else has created a like unique thing, you can't steal it off them. But if you are like playing a specific character and you're like using audio clips of them, does that count? So like,
They didn't really specify in that section of the website. My guess is idol dances are fine because they're like covers.
Yeah.
I would assume. But if you're taking like somebody else's performance and replicating it, then like you can't do that. I'm assuming that's what they meant.
And also, I think both have competed in enough cosplay competitions to know the rules on the website are not always even read by the judges.
Yeah.
At the time.
Oh, there's been times we've seen things not be enforced.
Yep.
Yep.
Or just enforced randomly.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is the thing, is like, particularly for performance, there's no rubric. There's not really for construction either, and that leads to kind of being something for which, like, singing and dancing are different skills. How do you judge them against each other? How do you judge skits against something that's not skits? Like, if somebody does a backflip on stage, does that count more than a skit that's, like, really well designed? Those are just really different things.
Yep. It's hard to know. Like, part of the issue is because they frequently only have a set number of awards, which are frequently relatively limited. It does mean as the judge, you have to judge, like live singing against dance against a skit performance against like a bunch of other stuff, and you have like I have no idea how they do that.
Well, I was going to point out, and this is not, this is more of a thing I'd like to see in the future versus a criticism, but I remember when the judges were introduced at the beginning of the cosplay contest and they were talking about like their background and kind of like, oh, like I've been cosplaying for X amount of years. I do this, this, and this. There were two judges. Usually there's three, but there were only two for this one, which I like it when there's three because I think it's easier to have three for like breaking ties and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. When they were talking about their background, none of them actually mentioned anything about performance. And so I strongly suspect that the performances were not judged on any performance background or kind of just off vibes. I could be totally wrong, and whoever, if the judges happen to listen to this, they can call me out. But I would like in the future for cosplay contests to make sure they have performance judges that actually understand what a performance is and know what to look for. Because I think that's unfair to the performers if craftsmanship judges are kind of stuck judging the performances.
Yeah. But that's kind of the thing you see in a lot of conventions, insofar as they will get in judges for the craftsmanship side, and then they have to double dip and get them to also do the performance
Which
side.
speaks to Bridget's point about performance still being very undervalued, despite, I think, rapidly becoming the more popular type of cosplay competition.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that point.
Yeah.
Because increasing, like, here's the thing. It used to be a case of the craftsmanship competition was where you would go to see the best cosplay at the con. Nowadays, you're going to see that in the corridors.
Yeah.
You just are.
Well, this is the thing, is like what I do generally, which is a combination of thrifting and design. Like, all of my own pieces I design myself. Like, they're not stuff that's made or I buy out of a cosplay box. I don't make all of the pieces myself, but I do design them myself.
Yeah.
And I've only met like one or two other people who do that exact skill set in cosplay competitions, or in cosplay generally. And that's not to say that like every aspect of cosplay needs to be included in like formal cosplay competitions. Like, there's definitely aspects of cosplay that you can just enjoy it always and stuff like that.
Yes.
Also fun. But it is hard that now that competitions are becoming, I think, more and more mainstream and more people are wanting to do them, it's really drilling down to these just kind of like, you have to do this one thing and it has to be done this way, and only if you do it this way you're going to get any sort of accreditation.
Yeah. And that personally bugs me.
Which is why we were talking about some cons, like maybe, especially if they have, as performance gets more popular, split in awards between like type of thing a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, like, best dance / musical act, best
Skit,
Skit.
best magic if that becomes popular.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a convention that I think we're all going to go to in a couple weeks in Ohio that I'm in the masquerade. I got confirmed to be one of the performers, and I got the list of awards that they're going to give out, and it looks like they're going to break it down the way that you just mentioned. So there's going to be, I think, best dance, best singing act or like lip syncing act, best storytelling or best skit, and then like best in show, and then I think judge's choice. So, and I've never seen a con do that. I don't know if it's going to actually work because it depends on how many performers they get.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get very many based on last year, but if it works, I would be very curious how that's going to work out. And I think that actually might be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with you on that point.
I also was going to say, if you're familiar with cosplay contests, they did not do skill levels for the performers at this one. So if you're not familiar, masquerades usually have 3 skill levels based on your experience and the awards that you've won. And usually that's pretty par for the course for craftsmanship. So there's like your novice, which is like your beginner, the journeyman, which is like the intermediate, and then there's the masters, which is like the advanced people that have won like a bunch of awards and stuff like that. That usually happens for performance as well, but this one didn't have those at all. So I think the only award that the performers could have gotten was best performance, I think.
Best performance and best in show.
I'm not sure about best in show because I know the people that got best in show was an idol trio, and they made their costumes and performed. But
Yeah.
the website never specified if you had to do both to be eligible for best in show. So I was actually never sure if I was eligible for that.
Yeah, that's fair, because I'm trying to think of all the awards they give out. So they did best prop, best performance.
They had novice and I think advanced.
Yeah, best novice and best master, and then best in show. Is that
Yep.
everything, or am I missing one?
There was, I think, best prop. There wasn't a judge's choice, I don't think.
No.
Which is funny because that was on their website. That was like one of the awards they were going to do.
Well, this is the thing that I've also noticed with cosplay competitions. They don't get enough people. They just start axing awards because they're like, you don't deserve an award.
I don't get that. Like it's like they want to have a shortage of awards because they want to like not.
They don't like participation trophies, which again I think is dumb. Like you already put in the effort.
I mean, there's still people that aren't going to get an award. I mean, because
Yeah.
you're not going to have an award for everybody. So there's nothing wrong with having a couple extra. It's whatever.
It's also like, well, they don't want to like devalue it or say that it's not about. Like the thing is, like you can't control who else shows up or doesn't show
Yeah.
up. That's not your fault.
Yeah.
Because again, we've had that happen before, where we were the only skit, so they decided not to give out the skit award. And I'm like,
That was about the point where I'm like, I'm done with doing masquerade competitions because that was like the fourth time that like something had gone wrong with like us. And I will say for like the competitions we used to enter, we were generally the only skit, and I was just getting a little bit tired of doing skits when no one else was doing them, and everyone was looking at us strangely.
yeah.
So I was just like, I think we're done for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I actually shared. We were talking about the cosplay contest. So the performance I did was if you're familiar with Ruby, there is a character short on YouTube that Rooster Teeth made when they made Ruby at the time about Yang's character, who is the older sister to the main character of the show. And I did kind of like a reenactment of that, but then I did a tap dance to the song that is used in the character short. So that was my performance.
You did have to deal with another carpeted stage, but I think you're used to that by this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said before, I think I'm pretty used to it. I actually don't mind a carpeted stage sometimes because if it's not, you don't know what kind of hard floor you're working with, and it could get very slippery.
Yeah.
So carpet usually guarantees that you will not slip and fall.
Which is definitely considered a plus.
Yes.
But yeah, so at that point, the judges kind of skedaddled off to the back to deliberate and do their thing. And they did at least have a halftime show, because sometimes conventions won't have a halftime show. They'll just kind of like loosely improvise for a bit while the judges are deliberating. This one didn't do that, which is good, because again, like, that's typically incredibly awkward. Like, I remember at GalaxyCon when they were just like going out into the audience and like asking them random questions to vamp for a bit.
They've stopped doing that.
Stopped
finally.
doing that.
God.
Yeah, it was always kind of awkward, not gonna lie.
It's also, honestly, it's just fine to have it like people wait. Generally, I will say at that point, like half the audience leaves because they don't really care about who wins. They just kind of want to see cool cosplays, which is valid.
Yep.
But this one, like, I also like that they had 3 halftime acts, because I will admit if they have a longer halftime show, like, my attention span, particularly at this point, after I've watched a bunch of acts, is kind of short, so it's hard for me to watch anyone, no matter how good they are, for 15 minutes. So having 3 5-minute acts, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, what do they even have?
There was like I think there was like a trio or a small group, like 4 people. They did a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the second one.
And then it was, I think it was like a hip hop dance for the second one. Or...
That's right. It was a soloist. They were pretty good. I
Yep.
will say. I don't do hip hop. That is the one style of dance I'm not good at. But I appreciate it when I see it.
Yep. And then for the third one, this is where they broke out the stripper pole. Specifically, they had one of those portable poles. So they put it up on stage. They got it set up, and then somebody came out and did a dance to. I have no idea what the music was. Does anybody remember?
Yeah,
It was-
I didn't recognize it.
It was like some contemporary lyrical sounding song.
Yeah, it was probably something from a video game soundtrack, I guess. But no, they were good. Like,
It was also interesting because we happened to be seating by them in the section, and that person uses a wheelchair, which I feel comfortable saying because I was next to them. very obviously used it, and like I could tell that this was like for them a way of like exercising and expressing themselves that was easier given their disability, which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Which I respect. Like
And
again, they were doing a lot of like aerial work that requires a lot of upper body strength, which I suspect was a very deliberate decision on their part.
And I will say all three of these performers, because they happen to be kind of on a wall next to our section of the audience, were cheering everyone on fantastically throughout the entire cosplay competition.
Yeah, that last person in
That's
particular
good.
like had so much energy for just like hyping people up and pumping them up during their performance, which I do like and respect them for. But yeah, so after that, the sort of ball came back down off stage, and then judges came up, and as we mentioned, like these were two craftsmanship judges who had also been roped into judging the masquerade, is what it felt like. Like I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe they've got a whole bunch of masquerade experience I don't know about.
Well, they spent a lot more time talking about, because they did actually talk about like what they liked about everything, which I do like it a lot more than when they do that, when they just kind of say who won.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice.
So I like that, but they did spend a lot more time talking about the craftsmanship stuff and a lot less about the performance and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you.
Well, that just tells me that they didn't have the background that they would have on the performance side versus the craftsmanship side.
And yeah, it's like I think most cosplay competitions we agreed with some of the judging, not others, but again, we don't know what they were judging on or why.
Yeah. Which again is kind of always part of the problem. Like I didn't see a cosplay judging feedback panel at this one. Some cons will let you go to a panel the next day where they tell you like what they liked, what they didn't, what you can improve on, and like we've never been to one of those because that sounds like a miserable experience. But again, especially if you're like just starting out and you want some pointers, they're probably useful.
I've actually never gone to one, despite doing I don't know how many masquerades at this point. But my plan is actually when I'm going to be performing at ZipCon in February. I'm going to make sure I get my score sheet for that, regardless of what happens, because I'm curious to see what they judge on. Because you can get those right after the masquerade. It's not like you have to come the next day.
So that's what they offer those.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. So I'm going to take advantage of that. But I was going to say I believe the cosplay staff, or it might have been the judges, during the rehearsal, they said like I think you can talk to the judges after the contest or something to get some feedback, but they didn't say they were going to share score sheets or anything. Which I do question if there were score sheets, because I did not see the judges writing anything down throughout any of the performances. I could be wrong, but just based on that.
Yeah, we also did not see any writing at all going on. They were just watching the show.
Yeah, masquerade judging is always going to be somewhat subjective. Different judges are going to look for different things.
Yeah.
You're not going to agree 100% with the results.
With that said, you got shafted.
Thank you. Yeah, I will say I agree that I think I had a shot and should have gotten something, but
it was hard if you were right that like was only one performance award when half the people were doing performances.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to tell what they look for, and if they don't have a performance background, what necessarily is considered the best performance on paper may not be the thing that actually gets picked.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've kind of learned that happens at these types of things.
Yeah.
But the plus side is I do get to perform this again, because usually the rule is if you don't win an award, you can keep performing it until it wins. So.
Yeah. But again, like this was one where the winner, the overall best in show winner, was a Vocaloid group doing idol dances, and like it might just be that we've seen it so much, but that brought Jesus out of me. Like I don't remember that performance at all.
I don't like calling out specific people as not deserving to win. Okay, that's not okay.
I know.
This, if it helps, it helps.
Yeah.
My perspective is, especially with this contest in particular, so this is the one where I think it was the best in show, the best craftsmanship in each category, and the best performance. They qualify to compete at Anime Midwest, I believe.
Yes.
So in my head, if I were a judge, I would be like, okay, which one of these performers would be the best to represent this con at that competition? And would it be the idol group? It remains to be seen if that's what the judges think. But in my head, that's how I would have approached it versus, like this is a popular franchise, let's give it to them. Like I don't know what went through their heads, but like I feel like that's how they should have approached it if they didn't approach it that way.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of cons do that, where like if you win a big award, you can qualify for this, bigger competition. So I mean, I would think that the selection process would be a little bit more strict or a little more intensive or intentional
Yeah.
because they qualify to do this next big thing.
Yeah, because the way that this particular group of conventions do it is if you win if you win one of their convention or one of their performances, or if you win an award at one of their smaller conventions, you get automatic entry into into Anime Midwest, and the winner of Anime Midwest
for both performance and I think for
craftsmanship
get a free trip to Japan to compete in one of their cosplay competitions in Japan on like a world circuit stage, which is this is fairly common among bigger cons that like the smaller ones will lead up to these bigger types of competitions that you can do more generally.
Yeah.
And I will say in Japan, I still think the style is well that you make your own stuff and you perform and you're just expected to be good at both. So that might be why there's so much combining in this con because it's trying to be like Japanese cons where you're just kind of expected to be good at everything.
Yep.
Like so.
Succeed at everything or fail miserably.
Yep. But also in Japan, at least for some of these people, this is like their full-time profession, whereas it's not for most people who are going to a small con in America.
I mean, if I could like full-time compete in masquerades, like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to have me do that, wants to support me doing that, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's the same way we've commented that like if I could do this podcast full time, insofar as like if we were making enough from the podcast that I didn't have to have my job, I wouldn't.
Yes, but then I have to stress about keeping the numbers up constantly. That's stressful. And also, I don't want to be that famous. Like, I want to go to a con and not have people know who I am.
Yeah, that's valid.
For reference, if you are listening to this podcast and you come and say hi, that's absolutely fine, and I adore that. It's just, I don't want to be levels of famous where, like, I can't go to Pictionary anymore because I love Pictionary. Pictionary is important to me. I'm aware that I'm weird.
No, you're fine.
Well, I will say the other side of this with judging is, like, I do also think you have a certain responsibility to a winner, because it's a really shitty feeling if you, like, win something for somebody to think afterwards that you didn't deserve it. So, like, having judges that, like, have a clear standard criteria, making that criteria clear to the audience and the participants will lead to a lot less of that type of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Which I think will lead to a lot less ill will between contestants and also a lot more better feeling people. So I do think it's something for which some organization could be useful.
Yes, I kind of agree with you on that point.
Well, I think what happens is if you don't have credentialed people selecting these winners to go compete at this competition, it kind of makes the whole competition illegitimate because you're basically just sending whoever you want to these competitions without any actual selection process.
So that was the cosplay masquerade. Like, I liked most of the people on stage, and I do actually like the fact that they combined masquerade and construction into like one event. Insofar as like they are frequently one event at cons, but generally speaking, they'll do them separately. So again, they'll do like all of the masquerade performances, and then all of the construction people will walk.
Also, by the way, the correct order to do that is performance first, then construction, so the performance judges can go off and deliberate while they're walking. Don't do it the other way. I don't know if anyone does it the other way.
Yes, please.
That's just bad.
For the sake of the audience and their attention spans, please do that.
Yep.
Well, and also, I was going to say, for me, I prefer to go first, too, because, I mean, I'm a dancer, so I need to warm up before I go on stage. I can't just go on stage cold. And as I'm getting older, I need to definitely prioritize that because I don't want to get injured. So I like going first because it gives me time to warm up, and then by the time I'm warmed up, it's time for me to go. So that way I don't have to sit for an hour waiting for the craftsmanship to finish and then try to warm myself up before going on stage after sitting for an hour.
Yeah. It also confuses me when they're like, because occasionally they'll take time to deliberate for we've seen them do this for just straight up craftsmanship competitions, which drives us crazy because it's just like, craftsmanship is prejudged. They know who's going to win, or at least they should, before they ever walk across the stage.
Yep.
Like, we need to deliberate. I'm like, why are you deliberating now? You had like hours before this to deliberate.
I think the only one would be Judge's Choice. Like, if they do a Judge's Award, they'd have to maybe just make sure that they're not picking the same one.
Yeah, but they had 3 hours before then to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, I know
a couple have like a stage presence is like, some will say like stage presence is worth like 10% of their score sometimes, but in my experience, they tend to not actually count that. I want to emphasize this is just another like con pet peeve of mine. It's not like an actual like thing that happened at this con.
Yeah.
This con, I will say, in terms of like timing, actually did pretty well. Like, I liked how this was paced a lot. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good time frame. Like it was done in an hour and a half, which is a plus.
It was done in an hour and a half. It was interesting. I like that they gave the construction competitors like their moments on stage as well.
Yeah.
My one criticism is, again, I think they needed like an even number of awards, given that each of the categories had an even number of people in it.
Yes. So yeah, so that was the cosplay contest. We kind of knew that would take a little bit of talking about. So at that point, we headed out for a little bit.
Yep.
We headed back to the Airbnb, and we kind of were debating what we wanted to do for the rest of the evening. But what we eventually settled on doing was doing a run to a grocery store, just because we like looking at different grocery stores when we're in different parts of the country. Picking up some food and heading back to eating that, and then heading back to the convention in time for the
Cosplay prom.
Yeah.
In air quotes.
Yep.
So you were commenting that you've never been to one of these before, Bridget.
No, I've not. And usually it's because they're on Fridays. And a lot of times I don't attend a con on Friday just because I'm either working or traveling or whatever. And just there's usually other stuff going on that we go to instead, or they're just held late at night and we would need to drive back to the hotel or back home. So we just never had a chance to go.
So yeah, cosplay proms I think we're commenting to vary a lot in terms of what they are. They can be anything from like classical music with string quartets. Weirdly, is what Colossal Con does, which is not the one you would think would do that.
It's not, but I liked it.
I did too.
I like it.
To like basically them playing music that's entirely in Japanese, to them having like actual like people who are from dance studios teaching you how to ballroom dance in the room.
Yep.
I've had that a few times.
Yep.
Or this, which is basically literally what feels like a prom. Like it's literally just a prom.
Yep.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Again, I believe I said high school disco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
felt like a school dance.
Yeah. Which that might be something to do with the like what felt like the average age of everybody who was there.
Yeah.
Like,
and when I say school dance, I don't actually think that that's bad. What this event was, it was cute. Like I was having a blast watching the kids dance. So
oh yeah. Like again, there was a lot of like fun stuff going on.
they still know how to do the Macarena, people.
Yep.
You're not old yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah, but the thing is, what the music wasn't the Macarena. I don't know what the music was, but everybody seemed to know that the correct dance to do to it was just the Macarena.
Well, I really like it at cons like this when just a dance circle forms naturally and everyone's allowed to do whatever sort of idiotic dance they want to around it. So,
Yep.
And I love just the unabashedness of people dancing and not being worried or self-conscious, which you saw a lot of.
Yeah.
Which was just kind of great. There was one person like dancing on their own in like the back of the room that Bridget pointed out who was just having a time of their life.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was that one guy that was kind of in the front by the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, you go. Like I love that for you.
Yep.
Yeah, this was cute. I'm glad we went.
Yeah. So am I.
They played Shut Up and Dance, so we had to dance to that song because it's one of our songs. So.
Yeah. So we basically just like we scalped straight up to the dance floor, and then you spotted some people you'd met doing the masquerade earlier today, and you went over to have a chat with them.
Yeah, since I was kind of third wheeling this trip, I was like, I gotta go make myself not socially awkward. But when we walked in earlier, I had seen there were two cosplay masquerade contestants that I had chatted with briefly when I was in the contest, and they were there, so I went and chatted with them a little bit. They really liked my performance, so I figured I'd go up and chat with them for a bit. Found out they were both dancers because they both did like little dance performances as Disney princesses in the masquerade, which I really enjoyed.
Great, by the way.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. Like it's nice to see some similar stuff to kind of what I do in masquerades, because I think sometimes I don't see a lot of that, so that was fun. I had to laugh because I think we met. The jury's still out on this one. Was it the girl's grandmother, or was
I
it?
want to emphasize we're not saying grandmother because this person looked old. I think approached
She
them,
said
like looking at their mom, and she said grandmother in some capacity, but I couldn't tell if she was joking. Yeah.
so. Yeah, like we're not. Yeah, it's because we are using context clues to determine.
And context clues were like the age of the person is not what we're trying to judge by. It's based on what they said, and the room was also like the dance was going on in the background, so it was kind of hard to hear at points. So.
Yeah, I had to laugh because I think it was either the mom / grandmother or one of the girls. They were like, did you used to competition dance? And I'm like, yep. What gave it away? And they were like, we could just tell. So those who do competitive dance in their high school days, you can usually tell based on the style and the way that they dance that you're like, yep, that was a competition dance person.
Yeah.
So did you do competitive dance all through high school, or did you stop at some point?
Yeah, I did it all through high school. I started it in I think I'm gonna say like late elementary school, and then I did it through middle school and high school.
Nice.
Yeah, it gets a little rough sometimes. Like it's basically like if you've seen the show Dance Moms, it's basically that, but it's way less dramatic. Like all the things that can go wrong on that show, it's like yeah, it happens in the competitive dance world, but it's not that serious.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of that's over dramatized for the show. Like, I've seen a few episodes, and it's very clear the fights are stuff that are scripted a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, no, all that is totally staged. I mean, there is drama that does happen, but it was never to that degree. I don't know what it's like now because it's been I stopped when I graduated high school, so it's been gosh, 2014. How many years is that? 12? 12 years. So it's been a while. But it was fun while I did it. It taught me a lot of good like life skills like discipline and working towards something and just performing in general. So it was good talking with them because they kind of we had some common ground with that element of performance. And I think one of the girls we talked to, she's going to college, I think in the fall. She was a senior.
Yep.
So. You were heavily trying to promote the Gingham tour
again,
in a joking way.
In a joking way. Like, again, I am not actually in the recruitment side of our university. I'm a back-end data monkey. I'm just a back-end data monkey for the admissions department.
Well, it is one of those things. This is the thing: is we can recruit even one kid, just one for a con. Our entire con expenditure is worth it to the university.
Yep.
Do it.
So it's not something I haven't debated doing before. Like one kid a year is going to finance every single con we go to.
Maybe.
The actual logistics of that are more complicated because, fun fact, no one pays the actual sticker prize for a university ever. So
yeah,
it's very rare.
Yeah, like I know what kind of like scholarship offers we are sending out to people just as part of their initial. We've looked at your high school transcripts. You've been getting this GPA. We're going to give you this as a financial, a scholarship offer right off the bat.
Which is why, if cost is your concern with attending Muskingum University, you should apply because our financial aid packages are very generous and willing to work with families of all incomes.
I love the the tone of voice you dropped into for that was great.
I'm just waiting for somebody from Muskingum to actually listen to this podcast.
I'm amazed my students haven't found it yet. It doesn't have my last name on it, so I don't think it could come up for them naturally, but they're going to find it one day.
Eventually.
Most of them I don't think care all that much, though.
Yep. But yeah.
So we got our dances in. This was a very cute event. We didn't stay terribly long because it was already late, and I think we've got a long drive tomorrow.
Yeah. So we did briefly contemplate coming back on Sunday. We opted against it.
Yeah. We did go back to the hotel, which at that point was desolate. It was kind of weird.
It was crazy.
To take photos, because that time on Friday night, 24 hours earlier, there were a few people around, like hanging out and going back and forth and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just quiet. So I took some pictures in the elevator, which was fun.
Yep.
We got some next to one of the water fountains because they had a couple water pieces inside that were cool looking.
Yep. And then that was kind of what we did at this con.
Yeah. Get it out.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about what we didn't do?
I'll do that. And then for top 3 con moments, since we did kind of less stuff, how about we just do 1 con moment each? And that'll be top 3 con moments for this con, just because.
Sounds reasonable.
We have 9 moments for this con. I think it's going to be kind of hard.
Yeah.
There's 3 of us, so yeah.
Yeah. So everyone just think of what your favorite con moment is.
Yep.
So yeah, they had the date auction again, which is a standard for their event. We talked about that a little bit in the Con Alt Delete episode of but it's even weirder for me that existed. This one, just given how young everyone is.
Yeah, well, we're also doing the bunny bar thing.
Yes, they were doing the bunny bar thing.
I'm very curious how many people turned up for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really see it happening at any point.
Because I'm also unclear where it was. I'm assuming it was over near the panel rooms, because I did notice them ID checking people to get back into that section on Saturday night.
Oh, maybe.
So I'm assuming it was over there.
Yeah, it says panel room 1.
Yeah.
So the bunny bar is plus 18. seen their bunnies before just because they're part of the date auction we watched before. It's standard what you would think a bunny costume that is sexy looks like.
Yeah, it's your classic, like, Playboy bunny style bodysuit.
Yeah. Samurai Dan was there as we commented on. I will say the bunny bar also, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, was, it was $15, but you got unlimited drinks for that price, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, it depends on the quality of the booze, but, that's...
Disability awareness and Bluey, because Bluey's popular right now.
Yep.
It's not really anime. Monster movie panel, there were a couple of Tales of RC, Samurai Dan was there. The voice actor who was there was Barry Yandel, I think, is how you pronounce that.
Yep.
Some drawing workshops, cosplay contest, which we went to. WWE panel, more drawing panels. Guess that anime improv, some AMV panels. And I will say the manga room, which we didn't really review much, we did walk into, I think, once while Bridget was rehearsing, which had mangas in the back and a couple of video games. It was kind of meant to be a quiet space where you could read and decompress and also play video games or watch Muppet Treasure Island, which was on the screen.
Yeah, they were showing a bunch of different stuff throughout the weekend, and they did have a schedule up so you would know, like, when stuff was on. But yeah, Muppet Treasure Island, interesting choice for an anime con, but sure.
They had open DIY karaoke running all weekend. I assume by DIY they just mean that they don't have a host, because based on when we saw past the room, I think you just kind of put your name into the screen and then wait for it to be your turn, and then it plays the song that you choose for you.
Yep,
So it's like
so.
jukebox karaoke, effectively.
Yep, which is fine.
Yeah. They had the anime and K-pop reporter show, because one of the staff members there who was checking one of the door all weekends is very into playing the recorder, so
Yep.
go them.
They were actively just, like, playing the recorder as people went past, and
Fursuit
Cool.
101, I'm glad that Fraser representing.
Yep.
And Guess That Anime Background Edition.
Yep.
And they did have some tabletop games, reportedly at least, so that a Magic tournament, Pokemon tournament, it's pretty common for these to be in the background of most cons. I don't know enough about trading card games to really comment on how they run at cons.
Yeah.
I do not want to spend that much money.
Yep.
By the way, we had the time change.
Yeah, we hit it a while back.
Okay, so we've got about 19 minutes toward our first destination. So I think it's enough time for top favorite con moments and final
thoughts.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go first if nobody minds.
Yeah.
It was walking around the hotel with you two idiots.
Where we dared you to go down all the floors in sequential order.
Yeah, because we went all the way up to floor 8 in the lift just because, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching from the top floor and then being like, well, we walked around this one, we could take the stairs down to the next one and do the next one. And I knew at that point we were going to end up walking all 8 floors. I don't know if you two were in as much denial as you were claiming at that point, or if we'd all accepted at that point that was just what was happening.
Well, we didn't do it twice, because we could have done it on the way back, because we did each floor, or I think the even floors clockwise and the odd floors counterclockwise. We should have done it the opposite way.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what? We were in a car all day.
Yeah.
You gotta walk around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
But again, it was fun doing that with you guys. Yeah.
That was fun.
But it says something that wasn't like something that the con itself did. But yeah.
Right, Bridget, what is your top favorite con moment?
I think so. It's really hard to pick something that's not masquerade related.
You can just pick that if you want.
Well, I'm gonna. It is a masquerade moment, but it's not the one you're thinking. So, my favorite part of the con, honestly, was my rehearsal run through. And you guys didn't see that, obviously. It was so it's closed rehearsal. But kind of one of the funny things about doing masquerades is I think since the performances that I do, they're all original choreography. So I go into a studio space, I come up with the movements, I cut the music, I come up with everything. So they're all original. And I think when I get up on that stage, people don't know what I'm going to do, right? And I think when I have my tap shoes on, and especially when I'm on carpet, you don't know that I'm wearing tap shoes until I start moving in them. And so what happened at rehearsal was I did my little intro sequence that didn't involve actually doing anything with the tap shoes, and then the music itself kicked in, and then I started dancing. And I think there was a little bit of a shock factor that happened with the audience, who were the contestants that were watching. And I always love seeing that, because it's kind of like a cool moment of like, surprise, I'm tap dancing for this 2-minute piece. And so that was really fun, kind of doing that. And then upon getting off the stage, the two Disney princess cosplayers, they came over to me and said how much they liked it. So I always love moments like that.
Aw, super sweet. had kind of a similar moment because I did enjoy talking with them later. I think I'm just gonna pick the cosplay prom generally because I love watching people just dance like nobody's watching with that just pure inhibition. And a lot of the people this con were younger, and it was nice just seeing them kind of find their people and their moment and their groove because at that age you're awkward and it's hard for you to find that. So just seeing them all kind of find that zone where they could just be comfortable and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
very fair.
I forgot to because my con crush was there hanging out. My con crush for this con, which I occasionally get, and con crushes for those of you who are not familiar are basically just people at the con who you think are particularly cute. It's not like you seriously want to date them. In case you couldn't tell, I'm married, so you know.
I mean, again, you keep trying to pimp me out to the furries.
Yes, you have my full consent for that.
Yep.
You've not given me consent to date Gomez and Morticia. So,
No, that's fair.
so there was a Gomez and Morticia cosplayer who were in the cosplay competition. They were a very queer-coded couple. I don't know what their exact gender specifics were, but they were just awesome.
Yep.
Nice.
They were sweet.
I liked them a lot. And during that entire dance, they were trying to get their thing puppet to
Yep.
the hand thing to dance. It was very
Aw.
fun. I was just having a blast watching them.
Yeah, that was very like cute and sweet and all that jazz.
So, time for con rankings.
Yep. So, as per usual, the ranking structure we use is extremely straightforward. It's one question: would we go back?
If you're a long-time listener to this podcast, you know we originally thought about doing like an F to S tier system, but that seemed mean-spirited, so we're just
Yep.
doing this instead. Which is again a subjective standard because it's very much correlated to how far away we live.
Yeah.
And I would say if this con was like in Columbus or Newark or someplace that was like close,
Yeah, someplace that was an hour drive. Yeah, sure. Why
yeah,
not?
absolutely, it's fun.
I
this one-
agree with that statement.
Yeah,
But this one's a 7-hour drive.
yeah. So
Interestingly, we did like discuss this briefly beforehand, and I think we came to the same conclusion.
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 Hey.
And not on our own. Like if it was just Caroline and I, we wouldn't go to this one again. Not because it was bad, just because it's a long drive for what it is.
It's a long drive, and there's not realistically a lot to do. And given the age demographics of people here, like kids are cute, but it's harder to like be friends with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, at Con Alt Delete, we met a bunch of people and had a blast because we could find people who were closer to our own age to kind of hang out with and vibe with.
Yep.
Whereas here, it's a little bit harder to do that.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Bridget?
I think my thought process is the same as yours. If it was just me, I would probably not go back. But if the four of us, with my husband included, if we decided to all kind of go and like share the drive and maybe get a hotel room in the hotel block or something like that, I would consider going back. But if it was just me, probably not.
That's nothing against this con. I do think it is cute for what it is. I'm definitely glad that it exists. It didn't really do anything wrong.
It's a long drive.
It's a long drive, it's a smaller con, and it's a con that doesn't have a lot of what appeals to us specifically.
Yeah. And again, maybe if next year the paneling was, significant, if there was significantly more, because generally speaking, at any time slot you had one thing you could go to, insofar as they had panel room 1 and panel room 2 offset by half an hour. So at any given, so panel room 2 stuff was starting on the hour, and panel room 1 stuff was starting at half past the hour, which sort of limited your options a little bit. I'm not sure why they organized it that way, but who knows?
But yeah, I will say, I do think small cons like this that exist in rural areas or rural-ish areas that appeal to young demographics are really, really important, especially right now. I want
Absolutely.
cons like this to continue existing.
Absolutely. That I will not disagree with you on at all.
And I can see there are a couple cons where I can't see how this con is anyone's favorite con. I can definitely see how this con is some people's favorite con.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope there's at least one 15-year-old this weekend who this was their first convention and they had a fantastic time, and this launches them into a season of self-discovery that makes them happy.
Yes.
And then they get addicted to cons and become people like us.
Yes.
I can do a lot of stupid stuff. Because that matters.
does.
The ability to be an idiot matters.
Mhm.
And I just So yeah, that. What the heck is that? I'm getting that.
That's a hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like part of a tree. It's fine. It was just something in the middle of the roadway. It's not a problem. So, Anyway. So.
Yeah, that was Anime Zap.
Yep.
Join us next week for AdamCon, an entirely charity-based con designed to raise money for a children's hospital. It is a tabletop convention in vaguely Cincinnati, because all cons in Cincinnati are only vaguely in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Ohio.
Yep. Which we signed up for pretty much on a whim.
On the way to this con.
On the way to this con, because that's how we roll, baby.
Well, I couldn't find anything for that weekend. So this is my other thing, is like, I just really wish there was a centralized list of where you can find cons. There are places like fanconventions.com that have a lot of them, but because of politics, they're not all there, and also some people just don't think to put them there, so yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be nice to have.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't advertise stuff. Like, you'll find, like, sometimes the only way you can find it is on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason that you're trying to keep your new spreadsheet as up to date as possible. And incidentally, if you are curious about the spreadsheet, there's a link to it in the show notes.
Yes, I will update it with AdamCon, which was not on the list. Probably once we get home today, so it'll be updated, and you can bookmark that. It's a Google PDF thing. You obviously can't edit it; only I can edit it because I don't want people putting like penis con on there or whatever.
Yep.
Although if you are actually hosting a penis con, please let me know.
Don't give them any ideas.
Here's the problem: there is a non-zero chance that we would both be willing to go to something like Exotica, which is what that's Exotica spelled with 3 X's, in case you're wondering what kind of convention that is.
Yep.
We would be willing to do that and talk about it on this podcast.
We'd
We
have to
no
change
shame.
the podcast rating to do that.
Yes.
Yep.
We have no shame. So,
But also all of our listeners are adults, as far as I know.
As far as I know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, we're getting into Indiana proper. We are stopping at the Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. I think I'm just going to go to the Columbus Convention Center in my head because it's my favorite convention center. But we're stopping at this one to show it to Bridget.
Yep. There's a couple of bits and bobs going on. And,
in theory, I don't know for sure if they're still happening.
Again, it's connected to a mall. It'll be a good place to stop off, stretch our legs, maybe grab a quick drink, maybe a bite to eat, something like that. There are possibilities of stuff we can do here, so it's a good place to stop off on the way.
And it's inside.
And it is inside,
Always
which, given that again, on the day we drove down, which I would like to point out was 2 days ago, it was 65 degrees. It's currently 32. So, yeah.
Okay, you always ruin the outro.
The outro is not important. Nobody listens to the outro.
No one listens to it because we always do these.
So.
We'd like to thank Bridget for coming on as a guest.
Yep.
And dealing with our shenanigans this weekend.
Yep.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to officially be on the podcast. Actually, in the car this time.
Yeah. Normally we just kind of record it somewhere else. So. Highway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you for this. We will hopefully see you next week.
Yep. And thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Bye.